new normal, Joe. It's been 9 long months since we've been in the cage presenting live combat sports.
How does it feel to be back?
It's awesome. You know, I've been missing this. This has been something that's missing my life.
It has absolutely been a long time coming. We have a lot to get into tonight and run down. But first, we have our fighters first queued up for the opening bout of the evening. We're going to send it up to our cage announcer, Adam Palazzo, everybody's pal, for the official introduction.
Good evening, fight fans across the world, and welcome to CES MMA 61. This event is sanctioned by the Rhode Island Department of Business Regulation, Division of Gaming and Athletics Licensing. Elizabeth Tanner, Director. Pamela Toro, Associate Director. Christina Tobias, Gaming and Athletics Administrator. Peter Timothy, Gaming and Athletics. Your referees tonight will be Alan Lau and John Inglis. Your judges, Sean Flanagan, Nick Mahmood, Paul Asmir, and Joseph Feldman. Physicians Caneside, Assistant Michael Ray, and Dr. Peter de Blasio. This is the D'Amico and Birchfield bout of the evening. The following fight is scheduled for 3 5-minute rounds in the lightweight division. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner. He weighed in at 163 pounds. Tonight, he makes his pro debut, hailing from Plymouth, New York. Ladies and gentlemen, Frank the Tank Mazeppa. And his opponent, fighting out of the red corner, weighing in at 159 pounds. He comes in with a pro record of 1 win and no losses. With that 1 win coming in just 21 seconds by way of knockout. He is a black belt in Taekwondo. Hailing from New Haven, Connecticut, Eddie George. The man in charge of the action when the bell rings, Mr. John English.
Thank you, Adam Palazzo. Just about ready for round 1 of our opening bout of the evening on UFC Fight Pass, CES MMA 61. Michael Parenti once again joined by my broadcast partner, Joe Lozon. And Joe, you know, we talked about it coming into the intro just a bit, but this is our new normal, post-COVID world, the first CES MMA event since January. And tonight we are at the Crown Plaza Hotel in the tent outside. Elements, everything coming into play tonight. And of course, you're going to hear every grunt, every slap, every glove hitting flesh tonight with no fans in attendance. It's really going to be a different perspective.
And they're getting after it already. You know, I don't think these guys are eager to have their fight go much longer. It's a little cold out here. They're getting after it.
Well, Eddie George won by 21-second knockout in his pro debut, so you know Eddie George does not get paid by the minute. He goes in there to finish and finish quickly, as he did in his first bout. That was in January at CES 60, which coincidentally was the last CES event. That one also brought to you on Fight Pass. And you're right, Joe, they're both going at it heavy-handed right now.
They're wasting no time. You know, I think this is one of those fights that, you know, MMA fans really watch MMA for, where you have a striker versus a grappler. You know, we have Frank Mazeppa, who seems to be more of a grappler, has a couple wins by guillotine. And then Eddie George, like you said, his last fight out, he took care of work very quickly with striking from the feet.
Yeah, Mazeppa had a really good wrestling background in high school and in college. D2 champion in 2014, and before turning pro, had 8 amateur fights. Getting spun around here by Eddie George early in this bout. And again, like you said, yeah, George is striking really superior at this point. If George can't, or rather if Mazeppa can't get it to the ground, this could be a quick one.
This is very reminiscent of some of the older MMA fights. We had guys that, like, were not the best all the way everywhere, but, you know, you had guys that were strong grapplers without a lot of striking and vice versa. I think we're seeing that right now.
3:20 to go in the opening round. Eddie George in the black trunks taking on Frank the Tank Mazeppa in the white with the green. Our opening bout here on CES 61. This one, of course, in the lightweight division. As we mentioned, Eddie George coming off that big win in his pro debut against Raymond Yanez.
Eddie is landing a lot of shots all over the place. He's landed good punches to the body, to the head. He's landed a bunch of weird angles and different things.
George doing a nice job on his feet, like you said, really not just coming straight at you, but coming at you from different viewpoints. Really tough for Mazeppa. Trying a spinning back fist there, but misses. That just opens
big
it up
elbow,
for George.
big elbow.
Yeah.
That might be it, maybe.
Knee upstairs, and that's going to do it. Referee steps in, 2:41 to go in the opening round. Impressive performance for Eddie George. 2 victories now in his many fights.
Great finish, great fight. You know, I think it started up with there's a right elbow standing. He cracked him, he hurt him. And, you know, Mazeppa just started turning around, trying to get out of there.
Eddie George with the Lions roar at the end, and like we said, you're going to hear it all tonight, Joe, in this broadcast. No fans in attendance, all the sights and sounds of being live at a CES event or any MMA event, you're getting that brought to your living room tonight, courtesy of Fight Pass. So this is going to be a real fun night as we, again, navigate through our new normal. And, Joe, if you go back to just the beginning of the end there from Mazeppa, that spinning back fist, good attempt, but I think when he spun back out, it kind of left him open, and George just came straight at him, and that's really what spelled it.
Yep, I think it's one of those cases where you're getting overwhelmed a little bit, so you try to just throw something, you just hope for the best, close your eyes, spin an elbow, and unfortunately for him, Eddie George ducked down and came up and hit him with an elbow of his own.
George saw it coming, had it timed, and when Mazeppa missed, George stepped in and did a great job finishing the fight. So Eddie George, again, your victor, now has 2 wins, both by knockout, both in the first round. So Eddie George, impressive thus far, Joe, as he gets through. Let's send it to Adam Palazzo for the particulars.
Ladies and gentlemen, your winner, 2 minutes, 21 seconds into round number 1 by TKO, and still undefeated, Eddie George.
All right, there it is. Eddie George remains perfect at 2-0. Both wins coming by first-round knockout. Frank Mazeppa, the tough luck loss tonight. He drops to 0-1 in his professional debut. Now, Joe, we talked about in the intro a little bit about having a lot that we wanted to run down in this card tonight. So many exciting bouts here at CES 61. We've got 7 in total, including our big main event between John Guy III and Nick Alley. But some of these undercard bouts are really going to be intriguing. We've got some new faces coming to the CES cage, and this featherweight bout that's coming up next in particular features 2 newcomers who the fans have not seen yet, Josh Mara from Georgia and Connor Matthews, who I think you'd be familiar with, fighting from Lozon MMA.
Yep.
That ring a bell?
I've seen Connor once or twice in my gym. Yeah. No, for sure. Connor's one of my guys. I'm excited for this fight, from a personal perspective, of course. But Connor just in general has the entire skill set. He's a guy that we're expecting to get to the UFC 100%. It's just kind of just putting in the time and getting a couple fights down and getting everything in order to make his debut.
Now, in this flyweight bout, you've got Mitch Raposo, also a newcomer to the CS cage. He is 4-0, taking on a real tough test against Matt Almy from New York. The perfect fight you'd like to see someone going, 4 or 5 fights into his career, a dangerous fighter like Almy, who actually has some pretty big wins on his resume, including win over Richie Santiago at CES.
Yeah, Almy's good. There seems to be like a very definitive fork when guys start out. There's guys that take like a little bit safer fights to try and build like a kind of, build a career a little bit. And then there's guys that just don't care and they want to fight the toughest guys they can, which is Matt Almy.
Now, Almy, a guy who will take on any and all comers, as we've seen in the past with CES. This will be his 3rd appearance tonight in the CES cage. And then you go to the heavyweights, the big brawlers. Tyler King, a CES MMA veteran, a guy who's been in the cage on this stage so many times, taking on Jamel Jones. Now, last time out, we saw Jamel Jones against William Knight, and the size of Jones is what stood out to me. Knight managed to overpower him, but Jones is a real tough adversary.
He's a beast wrestler. I think this fight is going to be kind of a case of like a black belt in jiu-jitsu and Tyler King versus Jamel Jones, who's like very, very good wrestling. And Jamel Jones has fought for every show. I think he's done like Contender Series, he's been on The Ultimate Fighter, he's been all these other things, and now he's in CES.
Jones and King, both veterans of the cage. Very interesting crossroads bout for them. And, of course, speaking of crossroads bouts in the bantamweight division, this one really stands out to me. You've got Chris Matino from Milford, Mass., 11 fights in the CES cage, making his 12th appearance tonight. A CES lifer, coming off a couple of losses, where a lot of guys would step back a bit and maybe try to reassess. He's going against Ashika Jim, who is one of the top prospects in that bantamweight division, coming in at 3-0. This is a kind of fight where it could really propel either guy, depending on who comes out on top.
If Matino gets a win tonight, that obviously is looking great for him, beating the guy that was undefeated. And for Ashika Jim, like he's fighting a guy that has a lot more experience. Matino's had 11 fights, a great record, fought really, really good guys, a huge step up in competition for Ashik. And, whoever wins tonight is going to, add some good, pressure behind their name.
Really can't say enough about those guys stepping in there and battling. We got a lot more to come tonight. We're going to get to all that, but we're ready for our next fighters to get into that cage. CES 61 live on Fight Pass.
CES MMA 61 rolls on as our next combatant makes his way to the cage. Ladies and gentlemen, Josh Mara.
And here is Josh Danger Mara coming in all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, fighting out of American Top Team Atlanta. a newcomer to the CES cage. Not quite sure what to expect until we see it in there, but is coming off a big win in July. That was his last fight, so he's one of the few guys, Joe, in the sport who's actually kind of fresh. A lot of guys have been off for a long time due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Some have been out for as long as 9 months if you just fought in January before everything shut down. Some guys have been out even longer than that, so you got to think when you're stepping in there now, rest, rust, things of that nature can kind of be a factor in some of these fights.
Yeah, for sure. Everyone has, been on a different kind of timeline. Like you said, like COVID screwed up so many different things because there are a lot of shows, in March, April that, guys thought they were going to fight, and then obviously it didn't happen, and then we're just now getting our foot underneath us. So it's going to be exciting. But Mayer has a lot of experience.
Yes.
He's done all kinds of Muay Thai. He's got good jiu-jitsu. This is going to be a really exciting fight.
Making his way down the aisle, Connor Matthews.
And here is the Lausanne MMA disciple, Connor Matthews from Fall River, Massachusetts, 28 years of age, comes in with a perfect record. Joe, obviously you know a lot about this fighter, having been in your gym, making his CES debut tonight, making his UFC Fight Pass debut. Take us through some of the nerves that can go through a fighter's mind. You've been on that stage 27 times, but you go back and still remember your first time?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like every single fighter is going to take it a little bit differently. So the biggest thing I try to, tell all my guys and really try to preach to them is the fact that, like, this is really no different than a typical day in the gym, right? Some guys think, oh, this is my fight. Like, I've spent like 3 months training for this fight, or now even longer with COVID. It's been like 10 months.
Sure.
I spent all this time getting ready, and now it's like I need this one night to go well. And yes, that's true and that's important, but it's so important for fighters to just try to calm their nerves a little bit and understand that, look, this is what I do every single day. I'm doing this because I like it. I'm doing this because I'm good at it, and try to, put out of their mind, like, all the what ifs and all this sort of stuff. And they just need to trust in their instincts and trust in their responses.
Both of Matthews' fights ended with finishes, 1 knockout, 1 submission victory. Now, he's one of the fighters we talked about on that different timeline, having not fought since January, and that was right before everything was shut down. So we got a little bit of a layoff from Matthews as he steps in with Maher, a bit of an unknown who has had a little more of a quicker return to the cage in July. This is going to be an interesting one. We're going to send it to Adam Palazzo for the official introduction.
This is the Andino's Restaurant bout of the evening. The following fight is scheduled for 3 5-minute rounds in the featherweight division. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, weighing in at 151 pounds, wearing the red trunks with the black trim. His professional record, 2 wins, 1 loss, with 1 big victory by way of submission. Hailing from Atlanta, Georgia, Josh Maurer. And his opponent, fighting out of the red corner, wearing the green trunks. He weighed in at 150 pounds. His pro record, 2 wins, no losses, with 1 win by knockout and another by submission. He's a proud veteran of the U.S. Air Force, hailing from Fall River, Massachusetts. Ladies and gentlemen, Connor Matthews. The man in charge of the action when the bell rings, Mr. Alan Lau.
All right, there it is. One last check by our referee, Alan Lau, and we are off and running here in this featherweight bout. Connor Matthews in the green trunks, Josh Maher in the red. Michael Parenti again joined by Joe Lausanne. CES 61 live on UFC Fight Pass. This one's going to be interesting. Nice big overhand right.
Over. It's going to be over. I think Connor has much better striking, much better jiu-jitsu. Of course, I'm a little biased, but he's seeming to prove it right now.
Matthews coming out early, lands that overhand right, drops Maher to the canvas. Nice job by Maher to get back up, but right now he's in a tough spot.
It's in a bad way. Connor has very straight punches. He's very fast. He's a very, very good athlete. I don't know if Maher was ready for Connor.
Definitely wasn't ready for that right hand. Maher trying to protect his neck as you see Matthews trying to get the rear naked choke when he has the opportunity. And it looks like he's got it sunk in pretty well here. Hard to see from this angle, but a minute into the round here, and that's it. And he did indeed have it sunk in, Joe. Impressive victory for Connor Matthews.
Connor's good. Like we've been saying it from the beginning. Connor is very good. He's the complete package. He's a great athlete, which goes a long way. You know, some guys do great just being a good athlete, but Connor also has great stand-up, good wrestling, good jiu-jitsu. He trains hard, does a great job.
Just an impressive all-around victory as Matthews improves to 3-0, and once again ending with a submission or a stoppage victory on his part. So Matthews, another guy who does not like to go long in fights, not getting paid by the hour. He goes in there, makes quick work of Maher, and you're right, Joe, he never really saw that right hand coming, and once he landed and knocked Matthews down, I think he kind of saw, you know, blood in the water, so to speak, and just went after him. I was really impressed with his quickness to just, in the poise. Some guys, sometimes when a guy goes down that quickly, you kind of lose it a bit, and you lose your composure to try to finish, but he looked real cool and calm the whole time.
He did a great job. You know, he acted like a professional. You know, he did everything right from start to bottom.
All right, so there it is. Connor Matthews with the victory. We're going to send it over to Adam Palazzo for the particulars.
Fight fans at home, your winner, 57 seconds into round number 1 by rear naked choke and still undefeated, Connor Matthews.
All right, so there it is. Once again, Connor Matthews now 3-0. Josh Maher drops to 2-2 as we come to you live from CES MMA 61. So much more to come tonight, but first, a little bit of a look at what's going on with CES and CES Boxing. How about a new website, Joe? CESfights.com. It's your new all-access look into everything CES. Let's take a quick look.
They put the stage and the platform for me to go out there and shine and perform. And believe me, tomorrow night I will shine. I will perform for them tomorrow night.
And I fought for some great organizations, CES being at the top. They are extremely professional. I've always had some really good opponents. The atmosphere is second to none. And you know, fighting on television, fighting on UFC Fight Pass, those are things you take the grave.
All right, welcome back to CES 61 live on UFC Fight Pass. Michael Parenti and my broadcast partner, Joe Lozon. We are live from the tent at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Warwick, Rhode Island. It's a perfect fall evening. Great time to be back cage side once again after 9 long months. I can't believe it's been since January, since everybody's world has changed, but we are here under the strictest safety protocols you will find in the business. It's great to be here. Great to finally be back. And we got another great one on tap. We just saw 2 quick knockouts, 2 great finishes by 2 up-and-coming stars. And now we get this very interesting, evenly matched bout here. Matt Almy, Mitch Raposa. Raposa being a newcomer to the CES cage. But Matt Almy is really one of the fighters that's intriguing to me as a fight anybody type guy. You look at some of the fighters that he's actually faced, has a big win over Richie Santiago in this cage, and one of his key losses coming to Tateki Matsuda, who's a UFC vet. So you know, just looking at the resume, that Almy's a tough customer.
For sure. You know, I was saying earlier in the broadcast, like some guys, they want to fight the toughest guys they can. You know, he's fought guys that are 7-4, 7-3, 6-0, 14-9. Like, he's fought really, really good guys all the way through. You know, Mitch is gone a little bit more cautiously with his opponents, but, you know, it's going to be a nice kind of, you know, comparison between the two of them to kind of see how it all shakes out.
Don't walk away from this one. It's going to be good. We're going to kick it back over to our cage announcer, Adam Palazzo.
Fight fans, the action continues as our next fighter makes his way to the cage. Matt Almy.
And here he is, 4-3, 1 win by knockout, 3 submission victories on his resume, Matt Almy. What else can we say about him that has been said already? He kind of comes from that breed of fighters, that upstate New York area, that close proximity to New England where you can get a lot of fights if you're willing to make the trip and come out here. There's so much action always going on in New England, and Ami is really taking advantage of that. You know, he was a heavy underdog when he fought Richie Santiago back in 2018. That was at CES 49. And he finished that fight in 55 seconds. So it just tells you a little bit of something about the pedigree. And he gets back in there tonight with another tough customer in Mitch Raposo, who we have not yet to see in the CES cage. But we have enough of a resume on Ami. We saw him against Hiteki Matsuda. And yeah, it wasn't a win for him, but this is a guy in Matsuda, a UFC veteran, and he went 3 hard rounds with him. And he's a guy that even in defeat is going to make it work.
Hiteki is tough. You know, he has been there. He is a grinder. He's been in there with everybody. And to go 3 rounds with a guy like that, you know, when you have not had as many fights is just truly amazing.
And there he is, Matt Ami, making his 3rd appearance with CES. A guy to keep an eye on when he's on the ground with those 3 submission victories. This one's going to be fun.
And his opponent making his way to the cage, Mitch Raposo.
And there is Mitch Raposo from Fall River, Massachusetts, making the long-awaited CES MMA debut, 4-0. All of his wins in different varieties. He's got a knockout, he's got a couple of submissions, he's gone the distance. So the one thing you know about Ami, even 4 fights and just having 4 fights, he's kind of seen it all. There are some guys who go 6, 7 fights and never get out of the first round, and maybe they don't learn as much as a guy like Raposo, who's actually had to work a little bit, especially in that fight where he went the distance last time out against Ron Leone.
Yeah, you know, Raposo has done much, much better as a pro, you know, finishing guys and you know, getting after it. You know, a lot of his fights as an amateur, you know, he had a lot of fights that went to decision, you know, and that was really something he really wanted to focus on as a professional, about getting more finishes, you know, and with the inclusion of elbows and things like that, that he's allowed to do as a pro, but not as an amateur, he's been more successful.
And you know, Joe, it's a very delicate balance. A lot of fighters will tell you they want to go rounds. I want to show off my cardio and what I've been working on. But when the opportunity presents itself and you can finish a fight, you go in there and you finish the fight. So,
Absolutely.
you know, it's very delicate for that. And Mitch Raposo has had the luck, I wouldn't even say luck, just the good fortune of being able to experience a little bit of everything. He's got a knockout win where he's had to show that poise and composure. He's had submission wins where he's put his ground game to work. And then he's gone the distance and he's been tested and pushed. So a little bit of everything on his resume. And now he gets one more notch in the belt tonight as he makes his UFC Fight Pass debut. We're going to send it back over to our cage announcer, Adam Palazzo, for the official introduction.
This is the Il Fornello restaurant bout of the evening. The following fight is scheduled for 3 rounds in the flyweight division. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing the black trunks. He weighed in at 130 pounds. His pro record, 4 wins, 3 losses, with 1 win by knockout and another 3 by submission. Hailing from Norwich, New York, ladies and gentlemen, Matt Ami. And his opponent, fighting out of the red corner. He weighed in at 130 pounds. He's wearing the red trunks and his pro record, perfect. 4 wins, no losses, with 1 victory by knockout and another 2 by submission. Hailing from Fall River, Massachusetts, ladies and gentlemen, Mitch Raposo.
And here we go, flyweight action between Matt Ami in the black trunks and Mitch Raposo in the red. Once again, we are live from CES MMA 61 at the tent at the Crown Plaza Hotel. Michael Parenti joined by Joe Lozon, live on UFC Fight Pass. Joe, I'll tell you what, I swear the last time I saw Matt Ami, he had long hair and no beard, and now he's got no hair and a beard, so he's kind of
lost it.
Yeah, I think, hey, it's a new
gravitated.
normal. Why not, right? It's going the other way. So we'll see what Ami brings to the table tonight against Raposo, and of course Raposo making his CES MMA debut.
Mitch seems to be moving around a little bit more, like lefty-righty, switching his stance. Ami seems to be a little bit more of like a traditional boxer, not changing his stance a whole lot.
I like the right hand and a little bit of slick the hair back in the process, right? Got to look good while you're in there. Round 1 of the Il Fornello bout of the evening here on CES 61. We've had 2 exceptional finishes in our opening bouts, and now we get a little bit of a big right hand there by Raposo, just as I was about to speak about a possible longer
Right.
bout.
Almost jinxed it.
Don't want to jinx it that early. And once again, as we talked about, we are in our first bout, first live action since January, as we continue to adapt and adjust to our post-COVID world. Raposo coming out, swinging early. Nice leg kick there by Almy.
This fight might not go all that long if Mitch keeps swinging like that.
Bad intentions here behind what Mitch Raposo's throwing. Again, trying for that right hand.
Almy does not seem to be throwing a lot of strikes, just in general. He seems to be pretty content to just kind of move around and avoid and stay safe.
Looks like he's trying to get the timing down and maybe a better counter puncher. Some guys do have that in their repertoire.
For sure.
Raposo, though, so far, like you said, definitely the aggressor here in the first 2 minutes of this opening round. As you check the time clock, brought to you by Tiger Life Energy, by the way. This is one of our newer sponsors, Tiger Life Energy. If you want to check it out, tigerlifeenergy.com. You get free shipping if you use the code CESMMA, so that's kind of cool. I got a couple of cans already in me, so if I'm talking a little fast, excuse me. Nice action so far here, and Raposo just really controlling the center of the cage. Calm and collected.
It's kind of an interesting dynamic when there's no crowd because you can hear every corner calling out very clear as day.
And I've always wondered about that because, you know, the corners that we've always sat near the corners, and they're loud and they're animated, but I always wonder if the fighter can hear. And in this scenario, you definitely can hear. There's no excuse to not listen to your corner into this dynamic.
Yeah, you know, I think even when there's a live fight, when there's a crowd and everyone's there, I think that, you know, some fighters, you know, definitely there's some voice. There's some voice in your corner that you know, kind of home in on and you hear clear as day. For me, it's always my boxing coach, Steve Mays. He's always the voice that I hear. Well, clear as day.
It's impossible not to hear Steve Mays' voice from anywhere in the building, I'll tell you that.
Very distinct.
We love Steve Mays. Big adversary here at CES MMA. 1:59 to go in the opening round. Not a whole lot doing yet, but Raposo just trying to time things. Same for Almy. A different pace in the first two bouts. We're getting a feeling out here, which we didn't really get much of in those opening bouts, where the winners both came out firing fast and furious. But Raposo taking his time. It's a big fight for him. This is his 5th pro bout, toughest fight of his career thus far. He's on Fight Pass, CS MMA debuts. A lot of cachet that comes with that. And certainly you want to get the nerves out a little bit before, you know, you really step in.
Oh, for sure. You know, you need to kind of have that little bit of a feeling out process sometimes. You know, different. Also, like it is a little bit colder out here. You know, we're outside. We're in a wide open tent. The sides are open. You know, it takes a little time to kind of get acclimated and get adjusted.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of a chillier fall evening than we've been used to, and the fighters don't really have the bodies in the building, so to speak, to bring the warmth that you're typically used to. So definitely want to stay moving. You don't want to get too cold.
So many times I think people don't realize that, you know, before the crowd is there, it's usually kind of cold. In arenas, it's kind of cold, you know, and then everyone shows up and the place gets a lot warmer. But now it's like we got no one showing up. We're here. It's just us.
Raposo's yet to lose a fight, by the way. 10 consecutive wins going back to his amateur days. 75% finishing rate. And that's both as an amateur and a pro. So this is a guy, again, who does not typically go the distance, but can and has shown that he can do it.
Good gas tank. You know, he's got a lot of fights that have, you know, he's finished, but he's looked, you know, fresh as a daisy all the way through.
And he really has had a little bit of everything because, as you mentioned, all of his amateur fights went the distance. And then he's actually finished 3 of his fights as a pro. Clips Almy a bit there, but Almy's back in the center.
Mitch is one of those guys, though, like he wants to finish guys. Like, he's really not happy getting decisions. Like, I can't tell you how many times I see him, like, in the back room, like, after, like, he wins a fight decisively, but it's by decision. He's, like, the back room, like, beating himself up and, like, you know, the verge of crying. He's like, I should have finished that guy. You know?
Round 1 in the books. First time we've gone past the first round yet here at CES 61. So good opening action, Joe. Not a whole lot doing, but Raposo doing a nice job, really just kind of controlling the pace there. Almy not really mounting much offense.
You know, but Almy really wasn't in danger, really, though. You know, he did a good job keeping his hands up. You know, there were a couple times where Mitch tried to flurry on him and try to, you know, dig a couple big shots. But, you know, Almy just, you know, kind of stayed tough and hung in there and got after it.
You notice our new round card model vignettes tonight, Joe. The round card model is not in attendance tonight due to the COVID-19 restrictions, but they willingly filmed some awesome scenery for us to transition between rounds. Thank you to the Griffith family, Andre and his wife, for putting together that on short notice for CES. Just an awesome job. So many new elements, Joe, added to this broadcast tonight. Not to mention the sideless tent, but of course all the sights and sounds that you can hear from the corners, everything, every fist, every shot. You know, sometimes you can't appreciate a great right hand or a great strike unless you really hear it slap. And you're going to hear it slap tonight, and we've had a couple so far. It's been fun.
It's like you're ringside. You're right there.
We are bringing you the action live. You have the best seat in the house from your living room, and you're pretty much cage side because you are going to hear a little bit of everything in the action. So round 2 underway. Our Il Fornello bout of the evening in the flyweight division. Mitch Raposo in the red trunks, Matt Almy in the black. Almy coming in all the way from Binghamton, New York. Raposo from nearby Fall River. Nice little uppercut left-hand combo there. And there's a big takedown by Raposo, so the first change in action we've seen thus far. And of course, you can hear the corners, Joe, loud as day.
It's kind of awesome.
Day, I should say.
I like it.
It is nice to hear that perspective and what they're saying and what they're telling the fighter to do. And of course, like we said, it makes it easier for the fighter to hear it as well.
It's an interesting dynamic, kind of understanding like who has the better corners and who has the corners that's not so good. You know, sometimes you hear corners that are giving very short, clear, precise instructions, and then sometimes you hear guys like, get up, get up, get up. You know, it's kind of, there's definitely levels to having, you know, different corners as well.
That's a very interesting dynamic and something people don't talk about because we always talk about what the fighters themselves bring to the table, but sometimes you're only as good as the corner and the advice you're getting.
It's important, you know. Obviously, it's definitely it's all on the fighter for the most part, you know. But the fighter is choosing who's going to be in their corner. The fighter is choosing who's going to help them, you know, who's going to facilitate them and help them get the win. And there's definitely a clear advantage sometimes when you have like one corner that, you know, is staying composed and staying calm and giving good, clear instructions versus another corner that's getting all fired up and they're just screaming, get up, get up. It's just, you know, it's not helpful to the fighter. Of course, they know to get up, you know, like, you know, hit him again.
And you don't want the fighter to panic if you're the corner. You want to, if you're cool and calm, the fighter will be cool and calm in return. Minute and a half here in round 2, and Raposo got the early takedown, and now he's working some ground and pound on Almy. A tough spot for Matt to be in here, Joe. I mean, it's hard to mount offense from this position. What do you see him, or what does he need to do here to sort of stem the tide here? Because Raposo is really starting to rain down.
You know, it's not the 90s anymore. You really don't win too many fights off your back. You know, they happen sometimes where guys will get an arm lock or triangle or something like that, but for the most part, you're not winning a fight from your back. You know, guys have gotten too good with ground and pound and everything like that. So, you know, Mitch is in the much better position here. He was in the full guard. Now he's forcing his way to half, and now he's starting to try and work again. You know, he's either going to go to mount or he's going to go to side control. You know, Matt really needs to focus on trying to get back to his feet. He needs to get on top. You're not going to win your fight from there.
Now, a lot of guys who you see who excel on the ground were great collegiate wrestlers. Mitch actually didn't wrestle in college, but he wrestled for Durfee High School in Fall River, so he does have the wrestling background, and you're seeing it put to use here. Obviously important to have all different skill sets and bring something to the table. Some guys are experts in taekwondo or jiu-jitsu, some are better wrestlers, but it seems like Raposo really is the full package.
He is, you know, and Mitch didn't wrestle in college because he started fighting.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I think it's, you know, back then, you know, maybe 10 years ago, you know, a lot of guys would do high school wrestling, and then they would go and wrestle in college, and then MMA was starting to kind of, you know, get some momentum, and then guys would then they would start doing MMA. Now it's like a lot of people are just making the decision like, I'm not going to wrestle in college. You know, they would have been great college wrestlers, but instead they're choosing to focus on MMA and kind of going there. You know?
Well, and certainly the dynamic of the sport and the landscape of mixed martial arts, UFC, everything in between has definitely changed that perspective. It's now more advantageous for younger fighters to get into it at an earlier age, as you would attest to.
Absolutely. You know, I think that, you know, when you think about just like having an athletic, you know, life and athletic career, you know, some guys, they could go and wrestle in high school and they go and wrestle 4 years in college, but there's really no place to go after that, you know, unless you're like a national champ or an Olympian or something like that. Like, there's really not much you can do. But a lot of guys are choosing to, you know, go from high school and they wrestle in high school, and then when it comes to college, like, they're just training a lot more MMA, and then they have some place to go after, whether, you know, they do more jiu-jitsu or just they're setting up themselves for the rest of their life of training and, you know, being athletic.
Minute and a half to go in round 2 of a scheduled 3-round flyweight battle. Your Il Fornello bout of the evening here at CES 61 live on Fight Pass. Michael Parenti joined by Joe Lozon, and it's been all Mitch Raposo in the second round. An attempt by Almy to get back to his feet was quickly thwarted by Raposo, who got him back down to the canvas. And now he's really got Almy in a pickle here.
You know, Mitch was doing a great job controlling his legs, and Almy made what I think to be like a very, very big mistake was he exposed his back. You know, like, anytime you're here, it's so important you get the overhook and you keep someone in front of you. Anytime you let someone get behind you, good things do not happen, which is why Mitch is on his back now.
Under a minute to go, and another thing that you're going to hear too also if you're one of the fighters is you're going to know how much time is left in a round. That will be explicitly clear with the dynamic here set up at the tent. 30 seconds to work as you hear Raposo's corner shout from their vantage point.
Mitch really needs to get to work. He's only got about 30 seconds left. You know, he's in mount. He's in a great position. He can do a lot of damage with ground and pound or elbows, but, you know, if he's not a little bit more aggressive, the clock is his enemy.
It looks like Raposo can just ride this final round out, get another one on the ledger, so to speak, as he takes a 2-round-to-none advantage. And now for Almi, as we wind down the final seconds here, he's going to go into this third round in a real tough position where he's more or less going to have to finish Mitch Raposo. Now for Matt Almi, this is uncharted territory. He's never lost back-to-back fights, whether as a pro or amateur. He's now facing that harsh reality here. So if you are Matt Almi's corner, and you can probably hear them from here, what's the best advice you can give, knowing that you've only got a minute and you've only got 3 minutes to work with once the bell rings?
So Mitch was not super successful with a lot of striking on the feet, but what really opened up the second round for him was a takedown, So if I'm in Mitch's corner, I'm probably telling him, hey, throw some punches and shoot a takedown. So if I'm in Matt's corner, I'm probably telling, hey, be expecting the takedown and be ready to hit him with an uppercut or throw a knee or something. It's one of those cases where if you go out there and Mitch is the faster striker, if Mitch is moving around and darting around, you're not going to win that round like that. You have to try to, pursue him a little bit more, and then as Mitch comes in, try and, choke him or hit him or something.
Awesome work again on those round card model vignettes. We thank High Octane Classics, one of our sponsors, for providing the vehicle backdrop. In case you didn't notice there was a vehicle back there, some guys might not see it.
There was a car there? I didn't notice.
Round number 3 about to get underway, and again, Matt Almi in a tough spot here. He's given up the first 2 rounds to Raposo. And, Matt Almi has finished fights before, but mostly by submission, so it's a tough spot here where he's not really a flash knockdown, flash knockout type of fighter here. He's going to have to work and really get Raposo to the ground and try to beat him at his own game if he wants to get the W.
Yeah, I think you're going to see Matt Almi be a little bit more aggressive on the feet and then, try to catch Mitch on the way in.
One thing you can say about Almi, though, is he does have a wide variety of submissions in his repertoire. He's won fights by Darce choke, guillotine, heel hook, so he can do a little bit of everything if he gets you in that spot. He's not a one-trick pony. Some guys can only really work the rear naked choke. Some guys are better with the guillotine, but this is a guy who can do a little bit of everything. So, but the key, of course, is to get it into a position where he wants to be. Whether that's striking or ground game, we'll see how the round unfolds.
I think the big thing, regardless of what happens, he needs to press the action a little bit. He cannot afford to let the third round go the way the first round went, where Mitch just kind of chased him around and he kind of runs away.
Yeah, it can't be a feeling out round again, and he certainly can't be on the defensive as he was in round 1. See him try to set up some leg kicks there, but he's really got to get working here. And there it is. It's a takedown, so got a little something going here. Maybe a guillotine. I don't know if
guillotine. He's out. Mitch is out.
Raposo's head pops out, but a nice effort.
But that was exactly what I was saying between the second and third. He needed to try to, pressure Mitch a little bit. And when Mitch shot a takedown, have a trap set. He tried to catch him in the guillotine. And, it could have gone really poorly for Mitch, but Mitch did a good job. He defended. He worked his way out.
3.5 to go in this fight. Third and final round in flyweight action. Your Il Fornello bout of the evening at CES 61. And Joe, we have seen that happen where fighters seem to have a comfortable lead and maybe they let their guard down a little bit because they're trying to be cautious. And then somebody sneaks in, gets a quick takedown, and the next thing you know, it's a guillotine or an RNC, and you're out.
Yep, it's hard, because if you're ahead, do you want to apply just a little pressure to kind of keep the lean on your lead a little bit. But sometimes you get a little bit too aggressive and you get caught in something. Or sometimes you don't apply enough pressure, and then they make a comeback. Mitch is doing a great job here, though, in half guard. Personally, I love half guard. I think half guard's like one of the best positions if you're the guy on top, because it's not so much that you have to pass. In jiu-jitsu, generally, you're taught, okay, you have to pass. You got to get your points. But for MMA, you're in half guard. It's a great spot to try and land damage, and Mitch has landed some good shots here.
Round 3 looking a lot like round 2 for Mitch Raposo, who again has control. For a brief second there, Matt Almi had a window. We saw a guillotine possibility or a guillotine attempt, but just not locked in deep enough, and Raposo snuck out, showing nice poise. Now he's got 2.5 minutes to go. Almi trying to scramble to his feet. Raposo just sort of presses him back down.
So if we see Mitch jump guard, it probably means that he has a really good bite on the neck and he really likes it. If he does not jump guard, then it means he just didn't like it. For the most part, most guys will not go and grab the guillotine and pull guard unless they're sure that they're going to get it. Such a dangerous position where you can burn out your arms. Mitch is doing a great job right now. He's shelving the legs. He's not letting Almi get up to his feet. He's got to protect his neck, though. It's going to be hard right now because Almi's getting hold of his neck and he's out. Guillotines are a completely different animal when you're talking about the cage and the fence being there, because generally you want to jump to cross side, but when the fence is there, you can't do your common normal defense.
Well, Mitch Raposo 1.5 minutes away from improving to 5-0 and keeping that perfect record intact here at his CES MMA debut. Once again, we are at the tent at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Warwick, Rhode Island. Michael Parenti joined by Joe Lozon. Third bout of the evening, number 3 of 7. And later on tonight, of course, John Guy III making his return to the cage, and Fabio Chiron in the co-feature. So we got a lot going on, and a lot more to get to. But right now, it's all Mitch Raposo here against Matt Almy. Tough customer, and Joe, the kind of fight that a young fighter at this stage in his career needs to win, needs to impress as he wins. And so far, Raposo really checking all the boxes here.
He really does it all. You know, he's a great athlete. He's in good shape. You know, he speaks well. He's got great jiu-jitsu, great boxing, great wrestling. You know, and he's a workhorse. He just goes. Even when he's been unsuccessful in finishing fights, it's not from a lack of trying. He's always going for it. Got to be careful right now on his neck. His head's out. He's good now.
Yeah, once again, for a brief second there, may have wormed his way into a guillotine, but he has shown that poise and able to sneak out both times now. And Almy really running out of time here with 30 seconds to go. Raposo just really overpowering in this bout, really is what it seems like.
He's a strong kid. He's in good shape. He's a strong kid. He's got to protect his neck, though. Almy keeps going back over and over to this guillotine.
You can see Almy is seeing some kind of opening here. He's got 15 seconds to try to lock something in, but Raposo again pops out.
And again, that was one of those situations where, you know, Mitch wants to jump his legs to the right side, but the fence is there, so you can't really do that. 10 seconds left.
Raposo riding this one out. Another impressive performance and an impressive debut here in the CES MMA cage for Fall River's own Mitch Raposo. So great job, Joe. Again, as we talked about, just a little bit of everything from Raposo, some early striking. Round 2 snuck in, got a big takedown. We saw Almy try to turn the tide in the third, come out more aggressive. He scored a takedown, but then Raposo really just kind of flipped it on him and dominated the rest of the round.
He did good. You know, what I really liked about that was that Mitch was in danger a couple times with guillotines. Never anything super dangerous, but definitely, you know, enough danger he had to pay attention to it. But it didn't make him take his foot off the gas. He kept on pushing the entire time.
Here's a replay of some action from the third round. You see Raposo, Joe, just in complete control down the stretch, really wearing down Matt Almy.
He did a great job. You know, I think, you know, sometimes guys get too punch happy and they lose position, and then some guys just do nothing but control and they don't even try to punch. You know, I think Mitch does a very good job about doing a little bit of damage and then improving his position a little bit and kind of creeping along while continuing to do damage.
So all signs point to another victory for Mitch Raposo. That would make it 5 in as many pro fights, and that would make it 11 in a row going back to his amateur career. So Mitch Raposo's yet to taste defeat. Now he has been tested, which is good for a young fighter. And I like that element that you point out. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the broadcast, about needing to be tested and needing to be pushed and maybe needing to face a little adversity once you're in there. And, you know, Mitch got a little bit of everything tonight. So big victory for him. Matt Almy, the hard luck loser tonight, not certainly for lack of effort. He put up a really great fight against Raposo, but Raposo just a little too strong and a little too much in the end there. So Almy drops a 4-4, and interestingly enough, the first time he's ever suffered back-to-back defeats, 1-2 in the CS MMA cage. We've seen a little bit of everything from him, and I'm sure given the effort that he always produces once he's in that cage, he will definitely be back at some point with CS MMA, definitely a game competitor. But tonight was the Mitch Raposo show, and showed that poise that we talked about, Joe, at the beginning of the broadcast, knowing that this was his debut under these bright lights. And they are very bright lights, as we noticed in the tent tonight. Definitely a different look than what we're used to, but the proverbial bright lights, so to speak, of being on UFC Fight Pass and fighting on this stage really showed out and impressed. Showed some great cardio, which he has done in the past, too. So, and I like that about a fighter. If I'm a trainer or a manager or someone that's got an investment with the fighter, I want to see a little bit of everything. I don't want to just see first round finishes. I want to see him get pushed a little bit and have to really show some adversity or face some adversity and show some poise in the end. So great effort by Mitch Raposo. Let's send it over to our cage announcer, Adam Plotzu, who has the final scores.
After 3 tough rounds, we go to the scorecards. Judge Mahmoud and Flanagan score the fight 30-26. Judge Paul Asmir scores the fight 30-27 for your winner by unanimous decision and still undefeated, Mitch Raposo.
There it is, across the board, Mitch Raposo, unanimous decision victory over a very game Matt Almy. And again, Mitch Raposo proven to 5-0. Second time going the distance as a pro. He has 3 finishes on his record as well. And for Matt Almy, he drops to 4-4. So we're going to send it up to our cage announcer, Adam Palazzo, who has our winner tonight, Mitch Raposo.
All right, cage shot right now with our winner and undefeated 5-0 Mitch Raposa from the great city of Fall River, Massachusetts. Mitch, 5th pro fight. This has got to be different from every other. Explain what it was like fighting outside, no crowd, both corners yelling, screaming. Talk to us about the challenge tonight.
No, it was definitely different, you know, and you just got to adapt. You know, true champs can adapt to anything. And I felt like being out here was kind of like, you know, just I knew it was gonna be cold. Maybe it would be cold. Maybe it would just be a little different. Just had to adjust, and I felt fine.
Your toughest challenge thus far as a professional, Matt Almy, he came in, but it was all Raposo for 3 rounds. Talk about the challenges that Matt gave you tonight.
No, he's tough. He's experienced, you know, and he's got some big wins over some real talented guys, and he just went 3 rounds with Tateki. So I knew he was tough. I'm a little disappointed I didn't get him out of there, but I just got to keep getting better. It'll come. It'll keep coming. I'm still young. Gonna turn 22 this week, so.
Well, congratulations on the big victory. Those watching at home, this is a name you'll hear again, especially on UFC. Mitch Raposo, 5-0. Back to you, Mike and Joe.
Well, Joe, you called it. Mitch Raposo, disappointed that he did not get the finish, is something you mentioned early on, but a real impressive all-around effort for the young 22-year-old.
Yeah, he did good. You know, Mitch is one of those kids that, like, he's not happy with just winning. You know, he wants to win. He wants to win decisively, but he also doesn't want to just win decisively. He wants to get the finish. You know, it's important. He understands that that's what UFC is looking for.
We're going to be back with more CES MMA action after this break, but first a look at what's next on the docket for CES Boxing later in October.
They put the stage and the platform for me to go out there and shine and perform. And believe me, tomorrow night I will shine. I will perform for them tomorrow night.
And I fought for some great organizations, CES being at the top. They are extremely professional. I've always had some really good opponents. The atmosphere is second to none. And you know, fighting on television, fighting on UFC Fight Pass, those are things you take the grave.
Welcome back to the tent at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Warwick, Rhode Island. Michael Parenti joined by my broadcast partner, 27-time UFC veteran Joe Lozon. We are live on UFC Fight Pass, bringing you CES MMA 61. It's the new normal, post-COVID world. We are here live for the first time in 9 months, Joe. It's been 9 months since the pandemic shut everything down, from the NBA to the NFL, Major League Baseball, you name it. quarantining, live events closed down, and of course CES and other combat sports promotions were affected by that. And slowly but surely, as the months wore on and the restrictions lifted a bit, live combat sports came back. UFC brought you fights from Fight Island, or wherever they call it, their new bubble, so to speak, the NBA, MLB, all coming back, NHL as well. And here we are now, finally, after 9 long months, bringing you action again. And it's just good to be back and see some live fights and see some of these young prospects, a lot of whom had to really fill some time, Joe, which can be definitely difficult to do. What's the best fights? Because you train a lot of fighters and work with a lot of fighters. Was there a mental game involved in having to keep guys occupied and not maybe straying too far from the routine, knowing that nothing was coming up?
It's been a struggle, honestly. There's been so many different parts of it. There's the fact that guys are gaining all kinds of weight because they're sitting home with their kids. That was my problem, sitting at home eating too many Oreos. I'm eating the same Oreos I normally eat, but I'm not getting to work them off in the gym. So there's that. And then, it's so uncertain, too, because, who knows if fights are going to happen?
Right.
Is your opponent going to test positive for COVID? Is he going to get injured? There's so many different things that can happen. But guys are just keep telling them, stick to the plan. Don't get off track. Keep it going.
It would seem like it's a good test, too, from a mental standpoint to see what some of these guys are really made of, Joe, because this is something unlike anything they've ever faced before. It's one thing to have a routine and knowing what you do 4 weeks out, 3 weeks out, 2 weeks out, but you're months away from a possible bout, and you have to keep yourself sharp and focused. I think you start to see, and correct me if I'm wrong, where the real cream rises to the top here, where the guys who are really mentally prepared and in this for the long haul are the ones who are going to survive.
Absolutely. And the other thing to keep in mind is that there's never been a better time to get to the UFC than right now.
Yes.
The UFC is running tons of shows. There's tons of guys that are pulling out for all these different reasons. Mm-hmm. That's a perfect time. Stay in shape, stay ready to go, ready to make weight, and good things are going to happen.
Well, as you know, sometimes getting to the UFC is about being in the right place at the right time. So many more outlets. The Dana White Contender Series, now an opportunity for fighters to get there, not to mention the Ultimate Fighter Series, or just being a guy who's ready on the right way in the right city and town when there's an event in town and somebody gets hurt or injured. So you always got to stay ready, and if you are ready, you don't have to get ready. That's the old saying in
100%.
Boxing both and in combat sports. Now, as someone who grew up watching Mike Tyson VHSs as a kid, I love a good heavyweight scrap. We got one on deck. Real quickly, we'll kind of go through this bout here. Tyler the Marauder King returned to the CES cage now for the 8th time, taking on Jamel the Beast Jones. We remember Jones back in January against William Knight. His size stood out to me, and for a while, it looked like he had Knight overpowered, was going to win the fight. And Knight just had this surge of energy where he got up and lifted him and dropped him, and it was all she wrote. But Jones is better than what he showed that night. That was a fight he took on short notice. And again, fights are kind of happening at all different speeds here, but Jones has definitely had more time to prep for this one than he did the last time. So expect to see a different Jones tonight?
Yeah, Jamel Jones is a monster of a wrestler. So I think that was a big thing with William Knight was, he's a big, beefy guy, but on top of that, he's a phenomenal wrestler. So, it's going to be a really interesting dynamic tonight because you have Jamel Jones, who's a very, very good wrestler, versus Tyler King, who's very good jiu-jitsu.
Now, the dynamic here is that Jones is 32 years of age, where you really kind of get into the prime and you start to slowly get out of it for some guys. Tyler King is 40 years of age. This may really be the last run. Is there an added pressure there when you know that, you may be kind of on the back nine here, and every fight seems to take on a little bit more importance than the previous one?
Well, I think that once you start to hit a certain age, everyone starts thinking, oh, what are you going to do after? Is this the last one? I'm sure for Tyler King, every single time he fights, oh, this is going to be the last one, this is going to be the last one. It's like, it's hard. Like, I get the same thing for me. I'm 36. I feel like I'm not that old.
Yeah.
But by fight standards, it's a lot of mileage. So, it's definitely, I'm sure Tyler's thinking about it a little bit, but, he's not done. He's not done yet. He's still got a lot of fight in him.
Well, we got more action to come tonight here at CES 61. 4 more exciting bouts on the schedule, including our big main event between John Gotti and Nick Almi. But for now, we're going to take a look at some of the action coming up later this month with CES Boxing, which also makes its long-awaited return to live action.
They put the stage and the platform for me to go out there and shine and perform. And believe me, tomorrow night I will shine. I will perform for them tomorrow night.
And I fought for some great organizations, CES being at the top. They are extremely professional. I've always had some really good opponents. The atmosphere is second to none. And fighting on television, fighting on UFC Fight Pass, those are things you take the grave.
Welcome back, cage side from the tent at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Warwick, Rhode Island. Once again, Michael Parenti joined by my broadcast partner, 27-time UFC veteran Joe Lozon, and we've talked a little bit about all the action so far we've seen in these previous 3 bouts. And one of the fights that really stood out was the last one, Mitch Raposa getting his 5th win in as many fights and showing that poise that you want to see from somebody just 22 years of age, but controlling the action from start to finish, going the distance, and I guess one thing you like to see, and I like to see, not actually entirely satisfied with his performance.
Mighty Mitch, he did a great job. He had a great career as an amateur, went undefeated. And then, as a pro, he just continues. He keeps that momentum rolling.
And we've got so much more action on tap for tonight. Coming up next, we have a big heavyweight bout between the 40-year-old UFC and CES MMA veteran Tyler King from North Attleboro, Mass. He takes on Jamel the Beast Jones. That one also scheduled for 3 rounds. And, of course, Ashik Ajim and Chris Matino in a very interesting crossroads bout, as I call it, for both fighters. About that, a victory could launch either fighter's career in one direction or the other. Chris Matino really needing a win after coming off back-to-back losses. He's making his 12th appearance in the CS MMA cage, though, of course, he's never been in a CS MMA cage quite like this, and really neither has anybody else. And for Ashik Ajim, a real big step-up play for him. He comes in at 3-0. He has 2 wins by knockout on his resume. Another one of those fighters that they just kind of churn on the factory, on the assembly line from Long Island. That's going to be a real big bout. But right now, we're ready for our heavyweight showdown. The fighters are queued up, and we're ready to go. Let's send it back to our cage announcer, Adam Palazzo.
Fight fans on UFC Fight Pass, CES MMA 61 resumes as our next fighter makes his way to the cage. Ladies and gentlemen, Jamel Jones.
Okay, where is he? All right, here he is, the Beast, Jamel Jones, making his deliberate walk to the cage, setting up some drama for the fans at least that are watching at home here on UFC Fight Pass. Big man, Joe, as you said, he's a mountain of a man.
Monster. He is a monster.
Looks like he could be an NFL lineman. Speaking of, Tyler King was at one point an actual NFL lineman,
Yep.
So we got that lineage. These are the big boys. These are the heavyweights, the action you love to see. And you talked about how you can hear everything going on in that cage. Well, when these heavyweights trade leather, you're going to really hear it with this dynamic setup with no fans in attendance. I'm really looking forward to not just the sights, but the sounds in this bout as well. Jamel Jones, as we mentioned, how many times can we talk about that wrestling background, but it really stands out. A guy this size gets you on the ground, well, you really got to start thinking quickly.
It's so hard. Size matters the most for wrestling. People think it matters a lot for punching, and yeah, it matters, but it matters so much more for someone wrestling, making them carry all of your weight, just, driving it on you.
Jamel Jones, definitely not a guy who skips leg day at the gym, as you can see. This is a mountain of a man, as we mentioned, coming in at 6'5". Just a big competitor, big-time college wrestler, has the size and the strength. That intimidation factor definitely is something you have to watch out for. 8 years younger than Tyler King, his opponent tonight, who we're about to see step into the cage as well. This one's going to be a lot of fun, Joe.
Making his way to the cage, Tyler King.
And here is the familiar face in Tyler King, coming in with a record of 12-8, 40 years of age, as we mentioned, but 6'5", another mountain of a man in the heavyweight division, a guy who we've seen so much of. I love this shirt, keeping MMA great, King 2020. So Tyler King making his own campaign pitch here tonight.
Throwing his name in the...
Now, King, it's been a while since we've seen him in the CES cage. King has actually developed some nice regional rivalries through the years with Eric Bedard, Josh Diekman, some of the big staples in the heavyweight division around here. He's had some trilogy bouts. He's had rematches with fighters. So it's a guy who, the fans get to know well. The fans have seen a lot of him. He did fight Bedard twice. He's fought Mike Musatelli, Keith Bell, Greg Rebello, who's who, you name it. Anybody who is a heavyweight in the Northeast has at some point, it seems, crossed paths with Tyler King, who's really been in there with everybody. But another guy, as we talked about in a bout coming up later this evening with Chris Matino, King is another one who's really in desperate need of a victory.
And let's just talk. Is this the Kurt Angle music? Is that what
This
he's walking
is the
out to right
Kurt
now?
Angle theme, fitting for a accomplished star like Tyler King. Really setting the stage for what should be a dramatic bout. We got some two excellent personalities on both sides. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to send it to Adam. He's got the particulars.
This is the Arigna Irish Pub bout of the evening. The following fight is scheduled for 3 5-minute rounds in the heavyweight division. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing the gray and white trunks. He weighed in at 241 pounds. His pro record, 8 wins, 6 losses, with 5 big victories coming by way of knockout. He's Tapology's #9 ranked heavyweight in the Northeast. He has 6 first-round finishes. Hailing from Spokane, Washington, ladies and gentlemen, Jamil the Beast Jones. And his opponent, fighting out of the red corner, wearing the black trunks. He weighed in at 248 pounds. His pro record, 12 wins, 8 losses, with 3 wins coming by way of knockout. He has 7 first-round finishes of his own, a former NFL defensive end, a black belt in BJJ. Ladies and gentlemen, those at home, Tyler King. The man in charge of the action when the bell rings, Mr. Alan Lau.
I suspect this is going to be one of those fights. We have a guy that's a good wrestler and a good jiu-jitsu guy, and they're just going to swing it out.
That's right. Something's got to give, and strap up your seatbelts for this one. This one's going to be good here. Round 1 underway in this heavyweight scrap between Tyler King in the black trunks, Jamel Jones in the black and white trunks.
Tyler King's channeling his inner Keith Jardine, bouncing his head all over the place.
Interestingly enough, if anyone's going to come out to wrestling music, it would be Jamel Jones. You look at his college wrestling resume, 2-time national champion in the 2-year college division, went 36-4 one year, 39-3 the other year when he won a national title. I mean, that's incredible. That's an incredible resume at any level collegially as a wrestler. So you know Jones has that pedigree and that background. And King is a fighter who, at his best, can finish fights quickly. He does have 7 first-round finishes in his 12 victories. So it's a little bit of a different dynamic sometimes for King, who can go long distances in the bouts, or if he catches it, he can finish it quickly.
Tyler's also an anomaly because he's a heavyweight jiu-jitsu guy that goes for footlocks. You almost never see that. You know, usually it's like little tiny guys that are good at going for heel hooks and footlocks, things like that. You know, but Tyler's this big monster heavyweight. And he loves to go footlocks.
King had a short-lived NFL career. His father, Steve King, actually played linebacker for the New England Patriots, and King also played collegiately at the University of Connecticut. So, all-around, well-balanced athlete.
Pretty athletic family, I guess.
40 years of age coming in here. A big fight for him. This would be a big victory if he could secure it against a fighter with the resume of a Jamel Jones, and certainly that's what King was looking for when he took this opportunity. And for Jamel Jones, again, it's a step-up fight. It's a fight against a veteran with an accomplished record. There's something to gain for both sides. King catching that, or Jamel Jones rather, catching that kick by King. However, King scrambles back to his feet. 2 minutes here into this opening round.
So far, it's been that awkward, weird kickboxing style.
You see King with that significant height advantage. Again, that's a 6'5" against 6'0", so Jones having to do a little bit more work to get on the inside, as it typically is the case for a shorter fighter.
Jamel Jones is probably not used to being the smaller guy.
How often could he say, with that, with the resume and the size that he brings to the table, that, like you said, he is undersized at any point?
Might be as wide as he is tall.
King, as you mentioned, with that head movement.
Very unpredictable. Very jerky, like moves around kind of awkwardly.
The King is definitely a character. He's been on the scene for a long time.
Been around a long time.
Every now and then rankles a few feathers in the New England region. We've seen that in the past. He's developed rivalries with some of the best heavyweights in this region, Northeast or New England. Definitely a lightning rod type fighter. He seems like a guy that either people love him or don't like him. Really one way or the other with Tyler King, but certainly a fan of CES MMA, and the fans have been willing to watch him repeatedly. He's brought big crowds to the arenas. He's someone that's definitely a draw and someone who's always worth interesting in fighting, but this time he catches a left in the chin. And now here Jones comes in with the hammer fist. Quick flash knockdown by Jones. Doesn't look like King is too stunned or dazed.
Doesn't look great either, though.
I mean, the footing looks a little awkward here, Joe.
He was a little awkward before he got punched, though.
I agree.
I think he might have recovered. He might have recovered. We can't tell.
it feels like it was a little slippery coming into the mount, and I'm not sure what you can attribute that to.
I think he recovered pretty well.
Jones just kind of clipped him on the chin there with that left hand, and King did a nice job sprouting back to his feet quickly. Jones tried to get a couple of hammer fists in there, but nothing much doing. 90 seconds to go in round number 1, scheduled for 3.
I would expect Jones to try to play that same game going forward. You know, let Tyler come in, be choppy and jerky, and then try to tag him on the way in.
It's certainly a tough dynamic because if you're the shorter fighter, you can either rush your way in and risk getting caught with something, or like you said, kind of pick your spot. It seems like Jones is more content to do the latter.
Traditionally, you know, generally the shorter guy is going to get inside. He's going to stay inside as best he can, you know. But now you're talking about a guy that's got good wrestling. You know, it's like is his wrestling instinct's going to take over, hit a takedown he doesn't really want, and get caught in a guillotine or something? Or is he going to try to, you know, get in and try to stay in a little bit but not all the way in?
And certainly the best thing King has done in this round is not let it get to the ground yet. Anyway, you still have about 30 seconds, but King's done a nice job staying on his feet. Jones really hasn't shot for any takedowns, so there hasn't been a lot of opportunity. But King so far staying where he would like to at least stay for the first round.
Yep.
Again, catches a left. That one not as damaging as the first one.
I think this is going to be Jones' strategy. I think he's going to kind of stay up, and as Tyler comes in, he's going to wing some overhand lefts. Try to catch him on the way in.
And it's a sound strategy against a taller fighter. He has that ability to throw that looping left hand and catch him on the way in. He's caught him twice thus far. A little spinning back fist. And that another left hand. That one gets King, and that's going to do it. He's out, Joe. Just as you mentioned, Jamel Jones would wait for that left hand to execute, and he gets it. He sees his opening, and he flattens Tyler King and scores the KO in the closing seconds of round 1. What a quick finish. What a tremendous action.
Very into the round, you know. Tyler kept coming in and out, in and out, in and out. Jamel Jones tagged him on the way in. Hit him a couple times, probably like maybe 3 or 4 times throughout the fight. He hit him with that overhand left. The first time done him pretty good. Second and third, not so bad. Fourth one put him away.
Well, and clearly a timing issue for Jones. He saw the opening. He knew where it was going to be. Yep. He timed it perfectly, and that time he just happened to catch him right at the end of the round. And sometimes you can survive the bell and go to the next round, but there's no surviving that type of impact. King was out before he hit the canvas.
Especially when you're talking heavyweights. Oof. You know, heavyweights, they're so big. They hit so hard.
And there it is right there. You see, and Jones actually gets in 3 hammer fists as King is out. King, again, just unconscious before he even hit the canvas, before the back of his head ricocheted off the CES logo. And now you have the ringside physician, Dr. Peter de Blasio, cutman Scott Ream, in King's corner, checking in on King right now. We hope he's okay. He appears to be moving, just hasn't gotten up quite yet.
Sometimes it looks worse when guys stay down for a long time because the fighter wants to get up, but they're
sure.
just like, hey, like, relax, chill out a second.
Better to catch get all your bearings and before you try to pop up too quickly. And again, we're going to take one more look here. Joe, take us through what happened and how Jamel sets this up.
Tyler was just coming in and kind of stepping in with his hands down low and just got tagged. Jones did a great job because he hit him, and then he jumped right on with a hammer fist and finished him off right away.
Real fearless approach by Jamel Jones. Sometimes we've seen it with shorter fighters. They're a little bit hesitant about trying to get inside. They know that it's a sound strategy and it's where you want to be, but getting there is kind of half the battle. That's the easy part anyway, to pinpoint the strategy, but actually executing it's a tough part. And Jones really did a nice job of executing it effectively. And we have the EMTs now here at cage side. Perhaps Jones, or rather King, may be needing assistance to get out of the cage. It's tough to see. You definitely don't like to see it. You know, Tyler King's been a great friend of the CES MMA community for quite some time. Very tough knockout loss, and you just hope he's okay. And they're certainly going to take their time with this one. Get the gloves off, get the hand wraps off, just try to get him a little bit comfortable and stabilized.
It's hard, too, sometimes, especially with heavyweights, because they're so big. You know, if it was Mitch Raposo who got knocked out, you know, like his coach just scoops him up and, you know, carry him out here a little easier. You know, like you're not going to easily pick up Tyler King and carry him out.
King does finally sit up. And everybody in attendance, give him a nice round of applause, well-deserved for a warrior like King. And there'll be some definite soul-searching after this bout, and King will probably have some difficult decisions to make. This ends up being his 5th consecutive loss, which will drop him to 12-9, and certainly there are going to be some talks and discussions afterward. But for Jamel Jones, a big victory to run his record to 10-6 with that big left hand at the end of the round, the 3rd significant left hand that he landed at that time. We're going to send it over now to our ring announcer, Adam Plazio, who has the particulars.
Ladies and gentlemen, your winner, 4 minutes and 57 seconds into round number 1 by knockout, Jamel the Beast Jones.
So So there it is, Jamel the Beast Jones fighting out of Spokane, Washington, now 10-6. Big knockout win tonight, the 6th knockout win of his career. This one coming against the veteran Tyler King, who drops to 12-9. Tough luck loss for King, who wasn't winning the round, but was effective in not getting down to the ground or getting to the part where you would expect Jones to dominate. And surprisingly, as you even mentioned in the pre-fight discussion, that you have a wrestler and a jiu-jitsu guy, so they're probably going to throw some hands.
That's the way it goes all the time.
It's just how it goes. And of course, Jamel Jones off script a bit, winning the fight by knockout with that big left hand on the way in. But like we said, again, it was a timing thing, and King had kind of maybe telegraphed it a bit when he came in there. And as you saw him leap in toward the end, right before the finishing blow, both arms down, chin exposed, it's just a perfect opportunity for Jones.
Heavyweights hit so hard, and I wouldn't say either guy is like a super sharp striker. It's a wrestler and jiu-jitsu guy. Neither one's a super sharp striker. But when Tyler just kept, over and over giving Jones opportunity, like he landed 4 overhand rights, overhand lefts, and the 4th one eventually put him away.
And Jones had really kind of hit some tough luck of late. He had been in a little bit of a skid. He had lost 3 out of 5. That last bout against William Knight, short notice bout at CS 59, more or less agreeing to that fight on 24 hours notice. Got overpowered and lost, got knocked out, stopped by strikes in the first round. And prior to that, it actually had an opportunity on the Dana White Contender Series where he did not come through swimmingly in that one. So this is a nice victory, again, for Jones, who can probably maybe move in the right direction now. So as it stands, instead of saying you lost 3 out of 5, you now won 3 out of your last 4. So a much better look for him at that point. And for Jones, again, it now gets him back into the conversation among some of the top heavyweights in the region, which will be very interesting, seeing how he goes moving forward. Very exciting bout, Joe, and still we have so much more to come.
All right, I'm cage side right now with our winner by knockout, Jamel Jones. Listen, man, you've got an unbelievable wrestling background, 5-star, all-American wrestler. You went toe-to-toe with the big man, throwing blows. What was your strategy there?
So I was on the Contender Series, and I fought a striker. He broke my face. I took a whole year off, and I perfected my stand-up. I switched my stance up. Me and my coach, Rick Little, found what works for me, and I knew how to execute, and now I just wanted to be a complete fighter and a complete mixed martial artist.
Had the fight going on, would you have gone and tried to take him down, or was the whole game plan to stand up with him and try to take advantage of some of his weaknesses?
Man, I like banging for real. I'm not scared to get hurt. After you break your face, like I said, it's kill or be killed. And you've seen who got killed tonight.
Was that the official medical term, broken face?
I broke my nose in 3 places, and I broke my orbital.
That doesn't sound like a very pleasant experience, my friend.
No, sir, but I'm still cute right now.
Number 9, according to Tapology, bigger and better things coming from Jamel Jones in 2020 and hopefully 2021.
Yes, sir. I like to give a shout out to my coach, Rick Little. His father passed away. He couldn't be here. And I like to give a shout out also to my local gym, Trevor Prangley's, who always takes me in. My coach was in Dubai, going through the circumstances we had to go through. I just had to make things work and make no excuses. All glory to God.
Congratulations again on the win. We're going to continue with more CES MMA 61 as we send it back up to Mike and Joe in the booth.
All right, thank you, Adam. Once again, we are cage side at the tent at the Crown Plaza Hotel, CES MMA 61. Jamel the Beast Jones still cute after that bout.
Still cute. I like
unscathed. He gets through untouched, and he lands the big left hand on Tyler King to score the first round knockout win just before the end of the round, right before the bell. Nice way to finish. Sometimes you don't want to even get into that second round, right? We always talk about you don't get paid by the hour. So Jones making quick work of King, and now we move on to our next bout. Fighters are queued up and ready to go. Let's send it to Adam Palazzo for the introductions.
CES MMA 61 rolls on as we stated. Our next fighter making his way to the cage, Chris Mutino.
And here comes the Milford, Mass native, Chris Mutino, 28 years of age, comes in with a record of 7-4. And Joe, I probably referenced this several hundred times tonight, but I am so looking forward to this bout for a number of reasons. I'd love to get into the dynamics and the mental aspect of why fighters accept certain fights and why fighters take on the challenges they take. Chris Mutino taking on a tough one tonight. Total respect for Mutino, who coming in with a 2-fight losing streak, certainly not a career-ending or career-threatening streak, but you always want to get back on the W. You want to get that W, get back in the win column, and sometimes it's easy to just take a walkover fight, just get your confidence back, but it appears that Mattino would rather do that in a big bout and beat someone of notoriety to really get fully back to where he wants to be.
You know, a lot of guys would have taken more of a bounce-back fight. You know, they would have taken a fight that, you know, it was still a challenge, but a little bit of a safer fight, you know, especially coming off 2 losses, like you said. You know, most guys are not going to go and jump in with a guy that's undefeated, you know, like a Shikajim.
Mattino's had some peaks and valleys in his career. He's had long win streaks. He's lost his last 2, but still a tough competitor. And this is a guy who's a former world title challenger. Took on Tony Gravely back at CES 49. And that was a fight that did not go his way, but it was a good, significant bout for him. Learned a lot from that, took it into future bouts. Every fight for Mattino, a learning lesson, and we'll see if he can apply those lessons tonight.
And his opponent, making his way to the cage, Ashik Ajim.
Long Island's own Ashik Ajim coming in 3-0, 2 of his wins coming by knockout, 25 years old, 5'8", fighting out of Queens and Long Island. Ashik Ajim has made his name known here on the CES MMA circuit. All 3 of his wins with the promotion. He fought at CES 56 where he made his debut against Will Smith, had a unanimous decision victory. And the last 2 bouts has really showed the power. And I was really impressed last time out at CES 60 in January. Took on a real tough Andres Rodriguez who was 4-0 and basically just wore him down, Joe, until he finished the fight by knockout in the 3rd round.
Yeah, he did good. I was impressed in the last fight. So Andres Rodriguez, affectionately known as Cooley, around locally around New England. You know, Cooley is tough. You know, Cooley is very, very good. Cooley has very good striking, and Ashik just wore him down over and over and over, and then eventually finished him in the 3rd.
Now, this is a guy who went 8-1 as an amateur. 5 of those wins were by knockout. Now he has 3 wins of a pro, 2 of those by knockout. So he's stopped 7 fighters by knockout in his career. So this is a guy that's going to come out swinging. And when you face someone like that, Joe, in the back of your mind, do you kind of have to be wary of that knockout power?
You have to, 100% you have to be wary of that. You know, the second you sleep on a guy like that, if he's knocked out 7 other guys, he's coming for you. He's trying to make you number 8.
Those 5 knockouts as an amateur, by the way, were all in the 1st round. So Ajim is the guy who likes to get in there quickly and get out as quickly as possible, making short work of his opponents. But he's going to have a tough one against Mattino. And just as we talked about Mattino stepping up in class tonight, so is Ashik Ajim against a guy who's an 11-fight veteran and is comfortable in this region. He's fought all of his fights with CS. So you've got 2 longtime CS vets stepping in there tonight. It makes for a real intriguing matchup. Looking forward to really seeing who comes out on top. And more importantly, seeing what the career trajectory could be for each of these guys after this fight. We're going to send it up back to our cage announcer, Adam Palazzo, with the official introduction.
This is the Crown Plaza Hotel bout of the evening. The following fight is scheduled for 3 rounds in the bantamweight division. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing the black trunks. He weighed in at 136 pounds. His pro record, 7 wins, 4 losses, with 2 victories coming by way of knockout. Currently ranked number 9 in the region according to Tapology. Hailing from Milford, Mass, ladies and gentlemen, Chris Mutino. And his opponent, fighting out of the red corner, weighing in at 136 pounds. His pro record, 3 wins, no losses, with 2 victories coming by way of knockout and another by submission. Hailing from Queens, New York, ladies and gentlemen, make way for the bad guy, Ashik Ajim. The man in charge of the action when the bell rings, Mr. John English.
All right, round number 1 underway in this bantamweight bout. CES 61 live from the tent at the Crown Plaza Hotel on UFC Fight Pass. Michael Parenti joined by Joe Lozon. Now, both fighters have red and black trunks, so if you are confused with who is who, Chris Mattino has the green hair. That's all I can tell you.
Is it green hair or is it blue hair? That's what I was just going to ask.
A little turquoise.
It's kind of, I wonder if he knew he was going to be the blue corner. He's got the blue tape. It matches his blue hair.
I thought Eddie George was bringing the heat with his hairstyle tonight, but Mattino might have him beat by a slight edge.
Gonna give him props for having the time to go and dye his hair blue to match the tape.
Well, you get bored during a pandemic. What are you going to do? Big fight for both guys, Joe, as we mentioned. Chris Matino, 7-4, needing to get back in the win column. Ashik Ajim, this could be a big win on his resume if he's able to secure it. This would really propel him up the rankings even further.
Ashik is really attacking that lead leg of Matino. He's kicked that leg like maybe 6 or 7 times already.
There it is again. 3 more times since you just spoke.
Yep.
Matino now trying to return the favor with a little right-left combo. Nice action early on in this bout.
Matino's probably taken 12 kicks to that leg already. You know, at this point, he needs to really kind of step up his game a little bit and start trying to bring some pressure on Ashik Ajim. If he doesn't, he will not be standing for round 2.
We know Ajim's a quick finisher. He had 5 first-round knockouts as an amateur. He's had 2 knockouts as a pro, 1 also in the first round. So you know coming out he's going to come out and come after right away.
He is. And he's showing that crisp striking right away.
I'm liking what I see from Matino, though. Eats a jab there, but comes right back with the right hand. Again eats that jab. Ajim just snapping his head back. Stiff left jab, now right left by Matino. Ajim trying to go back to that leg kick again. Oh, big right hand by Ajim, and that's not going to do it. Ajim actually waiting for him to get up. Looked like for a second the referee was going to step in.
Matino should have taken a little bit more time. He should have taken a little bit more time to kind of recollect himself. You know, he did not have to get up right away.
Very odd sequence there, Joe. I thought for a second it was out. I thought Matino was out on his feet. That leg kick again, this time sends Matino to the canvas. That leg's wobbly.
Matino's going to have to switch his stance. He's getting tagged.
Another right hand by Matino. I mean, Ajim rather, as Matino backs up.
Matino lands a good left hand.
It seems like for every shot Matino lands, Ajim lands 1 or 2 right flush to the chin. You see that head snapping back. Ajim is so poised too, Joe.
Matino's tough, but Ashik is just picking him apart a little bit.
Look at Ajim fighting off the cage, Joe. A right and left with his back against the cage.
That's
no sign of fear. It really is difficult to do. It shows a lot of poise and just shows that cool collective attitude, but Matino now charging in a couple. Left hand by Matino.
Matino's landed some really good shots. Last couple shots have been really good.
And here comes Ajim again with the leg kick.
Oh, good hand by both guys.
I mean, for every shot, you've got 2 shots on the other end. Nice left by Matino, going back to the leg kick. Ajim working the body, going back upstairs. A left and right. Matino Ajim rather trying for the head kick. We still got 1:48 to go in this round. This is unbelievable.
Matino just got rocked by a jab. It was a straight jab he got rocked by. He's got to be careful.
And not the first time in this round that's happened. You hear Matino's corner saying, don't stand there and slug, but now the elbow, or the knee rather, drives Ajim back to the canvas.
It's hard sometimes. You know, guys get hit with a punch or they get hit with a shot, and then they feel like they have to answer. They have to retaliate. They got to come back with something right away. And sometimes it's like, okay, like you got hit with a big shot. You return something that's not nearly as heavy, and something more heavier comes back to you.
A slight break in the action, if you can call it that, as the 2 clinched against the cage. But that's the most you're going to get in terms of a break here in this opening round. Ajim again, nice right hand off the cage. 1 minute to go.
I'm shocked that Matino is still on his feet. He's eating a lot of shots. You know, Ashik Ajim was doing really well with kicking the lead leg. I'm surprised he hasn't gone back to it.
It seems like you get out of that once it turned into more of a brawl. And sometimes that can happen, right, Joe? You kind of get anxious, you kind of get excited.
Dragged into it a little bit.
Sure.
You know?
These guys love to trade, and who wouldn't?
If this does make it to the second round, I'm sure that Ashik Ajim's going to come back out, you know, kicking that leg quite aggressively to start the second.
And one of those leg kicks actually sent Matino to the canvas, so you know there's a little bit of a...
Matino hurt him. I think Matino hurt him. He hit him with a good left hand and then hit him with a knee.
We'll see if Ajim slows his pace a bit here in these final 30 seconds, maybe trying to recover and get his legs back. But perhaps not.
I think Matino has definitely recovered from before. Like before, when he got dropped, like it seemed like every shot that was hitting him was it seemed like it was a big shot, but he seems to have recovered now.
3 unanswered shots there by Matino, but again, Ajim fighting his way off the cage. I would say the last 45 seconds to a minute's actually really gone Matino's way here, despite how the first half of the round went.
Yep, it has. You know, you have to wonder if Ashik has maybe gassed himself a little bit.
Very interesting concept here. Ajim came out swinging early, threw a lot of punches, threw some leg kicks, and you're right, maybe he ran out a little bit of his steam toward the end of the round, and you kind of wonder how the judges look at some of these rounds. Here's some of the action here, Joe. You saw Matino land a right and left against the cage right at the start of that clip. And there's Ajim. There's that right hand just caught him flush. And we thought it was over for a second there. I thought
like
the
it was
referee,
a little bit of a mistake to not jump on him. You know, it's great to hit that like walk-off knockout, you know, but now it's, you know, Matino is back in the fight.
It's kind of like a baseball player pimping that home run and it just falls shy of the warning track. And you should have legged out a double, but you didn't. And maybe you're right. Maybe Ajim should have dove in there and try to work some ground and pound or start with some hammer fists and get things going. But in any event, Mattino got back to his feet and actually got a little bit stronger as the round went on. I think maybe experiencing that early adversity, maybe it kind of psychs him up, or maybe feels like he took the best Ajim has to offer, and maybe that can be a factor going into round 2.
Ashiq definitely seemed to slow down for the latter part of the first round. You don't wonder if, that little rest off, if now he's recovered a little bit, or if, or what's going on.
And I think you're right, too. At the end of that round, Mattino did catch him, and he did appear to be hurt a bit, and it really wasn't looked at as much or as deeply, but Ajim maybe did get stunned a bit just to slow that progress, and we'll see how this round starts. Mattino tried a couple of head kicks here to come out of round 2. Now going back upstairs, big left and big right. And now Mattino coming out swinging.
Each other.
Here we go. No rest for the weary in round 2. Ashiq Ajim versus Chris Mattino. Round 2 of this bantamweight showdown. And hey, listen, I told you this fight was the one to look out for, and I feel like a prophet right now. This has been fantastic. Mattino always brings the pressure, always involved in action-packed fights, and Ashiq Ajim, of course, one of the top prospects in the Northeast, so you knew you were bound to get a clash of titans, so to speak, in this bout.
It was a great fight. It was like a fan favorite fight for sure. Guys are just going out there slugging it out, landing good shots, and good variety too. We saw some good leg kicks early in the round, in the first round. We've seen some good knees. Oh, he hurt him. He hurt him.
Mattino landed a big right.
Oh, he got his leg kick.
And Ajim followed with the left, and now we got a little bit of action against the cage here. Perhaps just a chance to catch your breath from all these blows that have been traded.
It's hard because, they've been throwing a lot of strikes, but wrestling on the fence is like so tiring sometimes.
Really no break in the action here. And, of course, Joe, this is a difficult pace to keep up. I don't care how your cardio is. And it's one thing to do it in practice or in sparring, but to face someone who's coming to take your head off, a totally different story.
I think this is one of those cases, too, where, guys that are very, very talented at fighting, sometimes, they've done so much damage to their opponent, but the opponent just keeps on coming. I think this is when, guys that, take their strength conditioning, outside the gym, more like, going to an actual dedicated place. I think that's when, guys like that tend to do a little bit better.
I think Ajim has really run out of steam here, Joe, and it goes back to your point in the first round about Mattino needing to be more aggressive. He's totally been the aggressor here in this second round. He's the one pressing the action. The knee upstairs. Ajim in some trouble now. Mattino again driving the right and left over the top. But Ajim keeps trying to fight off the cage, and now going for a takedown, which I think may be a sign of some tiring here, because now he doesn't want to trade.
Ashiq is tired. Mattino's basically being Homer Simpson right now. Oh, he's got a tight guillotine.
Could Ajim have made a mistake maybe trying to go for the takedown? Not necessarily at this moment.
Sometimes you need to shoot that takedown just to tie it up and just stop getting hit for a second. You need that little bit of a break. But Ashiq is exhausted right now.
Ajim may have emptied the tank in that opening round. You still have 2.5 to go in round 2 as Mattino lands a straight left. Now a right uppercut.
He hurt him there. That's over.
Ajim's in some trouble here. That's going to do it.
Yeah.
Chris Mattino with the comeback after a slow start in round 1. He scores the knockout victory. No question about it, the biggest win of his young career. What a showing by Chris Mattino. What a comeback after that first round.
Great finish. Mattino just grounded out. He didn't let his foot off the gas at all. Actually, I thought the referee was almost jumping in right before he did, but then he didn't quite do it.
Well, Mattino, to his credit, just kept going. You never really wait or assume the ref's going to jump in. You just keep going until you hear that bell, you hear it stoppage. But there's a big left that really set it up, Joe. You see Ajim just no defense at this point. A right uppercut followed by another left. At that point, Ajim is just stunned, and it's just a matter of time.
He landed a couple really good uppercuts. The referee is so close. I hate when the referee's that close. It's like, get in or get out.
I couldn't tell if he just couldn't get in or wasn't really sure he wanted to step in.
Let us fight or don't let us fight. Make a decision.
Big victory for Chris Mattino, a turning point bout in his career. He snaps a 2-fight losing streak. And you really look back at this fight. There was a moment where it looked like Mattino may be out or he was in deep trouble when he went down with that right hand. He was hurt. He got clipped. He went down. Ajim took his foot off the pedal a little bit, Joe, and then toward the end of the round gassed out, and really Mattino just turning on from there. Let's send it up to our cage announcer, Adam Palazzo, who has the particulars.
Ladies and gentlemen, your winner, 2 minutes and 45 seconds into round number 2 by TKO, Chris Mattino.
There it is. Matino now 8-4, third win by knockout. A huge victory for the young Milford, Mass native. Only 28 years of age and already has 12 fights on his resume. So Matino stays busy, stays active. And again, you just can't talk enough about what a big victory this was for him coming off that losing streak. He had actually won his previous 3 before that. So Matino has really had some ebbs and flows, Joe, and has really just showed the poise and the ability to not let the downs get too down, right, and the highs get too high.
Let's forget about the previous fights. Let's talk about just that first round.
You're right.
That first round, he got tagged. He went down. You know, if Ashik had jumped on him, that might have been the end of the fight. But Ashik, you know, he kind of posed a little bit, waited a little bit, and, you know, gave Matino time to recover and, you know, come back and win the fight.
It definitely looked like for a second that this was going to be all Ashik Ajim, and it might be another first round or another early stoppage for the New York native, but that was not the case as Chris Matino showed the poise that you like to see from a young fighter in a fight of this magnitude. And this is a real big one for him on this platform as he comes back, makes his triumphant return at CES 61 and gets the victory. So Chris Matino, again, improving to 8-4. Ashik Ajim suffering the first loss of his pro career. What a fight, Joe. I just can't say enough about it. It was everything we hoped it would be.
You called it. You know, beginning of the night, you were saying that was the fight you were the most excited for, and it delivered.
And we're not even done yet. We've still got 2 more to go, including our co-main event, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So much action on this undercard. We saw some real impressive performances. Jamel Jones in the previous bout in the heavyweight division scoring a big knockout over Tyler King. That was more of the one-punch variety, Joe, where you score the one shot to the chin that really ended it. But this last bout here with Matino was more of a methodical beating where Matino just really wore him down. And I think a little bit of both, right? I think Matino just turning up the pressure and continuing to press, but also Ajim just sort of running out of gas toward the end. So that's where we're at with that one. CES 61, so much more to come. Our next bout is queued up and ready to rock and roll, our co-main event. We're going to send it back to Adam Palazzo for the introduction.
It's time to welcome our co-main event fighters to the cage. Let's welcome our first fighter, UG.
All right, here comes the undefeated light heavyweight UG with a record of 2-0, 36 years of age, so certainly a late starter in his career, Joe. At this point, 36 and only 2 pro fights under his belt. This is going to be his CES MMA debut, first time stepping under these bright lights here, and the first time for a lot of people, of course, at the tent at the Crown Plaza Hotel. But G has never lost a fight, whether it be a pro or amateur. 100% finishing rate as a pro. 2 wins, 2 knockouts, 1 by submission. So he's done a little bit of everything in the cage. Real tough adversary tonight for Fabio Chiron. But what can you tell us about UG? Relative unknown here, fighting out of Canada, also billed from New York. Just really, also, by the way, his first fight at light heavyweight, who had previously fought at middleweight and actually fought at 205. So this is a guy who has kind of been in different weight ranges, shows a lot of versatility.
He's been all over the place, you know, and then on top of that, you know, Fabio missed weight yesterday, so he came in at, I think, 209, so he's technically a heavyweight. You know, so we had kind of have a heavyweight fighting a middleweight.
Right. Got an interesting catch-weight battle going on here. You got a middleweight fighting against a heavyweight, as Joe said, so a real interesting dynamic. But some big names on his record, including a win over Pat Casey in his last bout. That one ended quickly, just 46 seconds in the first round for UG. So, again, another guy who likes to get in there, get out of there quickly. All of his wins have come by first-round stoppage, one way, either by submission or knockout. So, interesting to see. Keep an eye on this one as we go forward.
And his opponent, making his way down the aisle, Fabio Chiron.
Here comes the Water Buffalo, Fabio Chiron, the submission specialist. Of course, judging by his record, 5-1 as a pro. All 5 of those wins coming by submission in different forms. You've had an anaconda choke, guillotine choke, rear naked choke. Chiron, Joe, is the guy that can do it all once he gets on the ground.
He's had a lot of submissions, a lot of different variety.
Now, of course, this is another big stepping stone, or I don't want to say stepping stone, but a crossroads bout a bit for Fabio Chiron. He had an opportunity on the Dana White Contender Series in July of 2019. Didn't go his way. Took a flying knee, lost the fight, ground and pound. A big opportunity, obviously, for any fighter. And any fighter who does get there at some point always wants to get back. So he came back. He got a big win in July, got on a card what a lot of fighters haven't been able to do during this pandemic. So Sharon a little bit fresh, a little bit more active than some other guys. But again, what does it take to really get there? Do you have to not think about necessarily trying to get back right away, or just working on some of the things that you might have done wrong the first time?
Well, I think in Fabio's case, the big thing he needs to do is he needs to make weight. You know, this fight he missed weight. He was 209 instead of 206. And his previous fight he was 213. You know, it wasn't even close. He has to get more serious. You know, like the UFC takes that very, very seriously. They're not going to bring him in if he's not going to make weight. Or he just maybe he needs to go up. Maybe he needs to become a heavyweight. You know, I think he generally walks at closer to 230. So trying to make 205 from 230 is going to be hard for anybody. You know, he's either got to decide he wants to get serious about his diet and keep his weight down, or he's got to go up to heavyweight.
And it's interesting because he is fighting someone who's fought at middleweight before, but Yuji definitely looks the part. Not as big as Sharon, but certainly looks like he has the size to compete. There's no height advantage here in this bout, so that's not going to really be a factor. But like you said, it's going to come down to discipline, both in and out of the cage for Fabio Sharon. We'll see if he can show that discipline tonight in the cage as he returns to CES 61. Let's send it up to Adam Palazzo with the official introduction.
This is the Candias Auto Repair bout of the evening. The following fight is scheduled for 3 5-minute rounds in the light heavyweight division. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing the black trunks. He weighed in at 204 pounds. His pro record, perfect. 2 wins, no losses, with both victories coming by way of knockout. Hailing from New York, New York, ladies and gentlemen at home, UG. And his opponent, fighting out of the red corner, wearing the white and green trunks. He weighed in at 209 pounds. His pro record, 5 wins, 1 loss, with all 5 victories coming by way of submission. Hailing from Rentham, Massachusetts, ladies and gentlemen, Fabio, the Water Buffalo Charant. The man in charge of the action when the bell rings, Mr. Alan Lau.
Round number 1 of our co-main event underway. Once again, we are live from the tent at the Crown Plaza Hotel. CES MMA 61 on UFC Fight Pass. Michael Parenti joined by 27-time UFC veteran Joe Lozon. And this, again, a big crossroads bout, big opportunity for both fighters on this stage. Fabio Charant, we spoke about early on having the issues with the weight cut, not making weight at the weigh-ins, and you wonder if that plays into a fighter's cardio. However, in Fabio's case, he's never been out of the second round, so we haven't had an opportunity to see what it would look like if he does get into those uncharted territory, and perhaps tonight could be the night.
Weight issues aside, Fabio is a very good fighter. You know, he's great at guillotines and chokes. Like all of his fights have ended. You know, this might be it right here. He's got if he jumps guard on this guillotine, it's probably a done deal. He's done a great job. Pretty much all of his fights have been won with chokes.
Well, he thought for a second he may have it locked in. Yuji gets the big pickup and slam takedown 1 minute into the opening round. But Charant again in a good spot where he's comfortable.
He's comfortable. He likes being on the ground, but now Yuji is in that cross-side position where his head is on one side of Fabio's body and his hips and his legs are on the other side. You know, Fabio would rather have his head and his legs and hips all on the same side. So but Fabio will probably use this to try and get back up to his feet and either re-engage in the guillotine or break off and go to something else. Doing a great job. He's coming back up. So Yuji has to be careful here because as he comes up, he's giving Fabio another opportunity to jump on that guillotine.
Charant coming off a big win in July over Eric Murray Jr. That was his first win since his lone appearance on the Dana White Contender Series. And again, as any fighter would, wants to get back to that stage. This is the platform certainly to do it and has to show and be impressive in victory if he's able to secure it.
And Fabio was doing great in that fight until he got caught. You know, he was winning the fight until he got caught with a flying knee. And it wasn't a case of, sometimes like, oh, the guy, like, he dipped his head down low and he got kneed. Okay, he made a mistake. It wasn't. He just fought a guy that was a freak that jumped up and kneed him in the face. Like, but Fabio did great in that fight.
Neither fighter has gone the distance in his pro career, both with a perfect 100% finishing rate. Charant having a little more experience at the pro level. G, a late bloomer, 36 years of age. Charant still only 25, so significant advantage there.
He's just getting started at 36, and they're putting me out to pasture at 36.
They want you to call quits.
Right? I know, maybe.
Could we be seeing appearance 28 anytime
maybe,
soon?
Maybe, we'll see. Gonna get in shape, and then we'll see. The UFC comes calling, we'll step up. We'll see what happens.
Halfway through round number 1, your co-main event of the evening. Our entire fight card brought to you by Tiger Life Energy. If you want to order a case for yourself, we've got a case here at Cage Side, but if you want to order one for yourself and get free shipping, you put in the code CESMMA at TigerLifeEnergy.com, and that's LYFE. Tiger Life.
Life.
Don't forget it. This is good stuff. Energy never tasted so good. I agree. Not much doing here in this opening round, just kind of pressed against the cage here, but G's had a couple of pick-up slam takedowns. Nothing really behind him, nothing that really has phased Sharon.
Takes a lot of energy doing that sometimes, though.
Sharon finally breaks free, back to the center of the cage now for the final minute and a half.
Fabio does have quick hands, and what really makes him even quicker is the fact he throws quick hands and gets guys to kind of rush in on him, and then he catches the head.
Couple of nice combinations here by Sharon, and you're right, those hands are fast, and probably faster than a lot of people anticipate when they see his submission record. Probably don't take the stand-up as seriously, but you got to really be prepared for it all against Fabio Sharon. And again here, possibly trying for the guillotine attempt, but there's not going to be enough leverage
he's reaching over the top with his right hand, which I'm big time against. I think that gives up your back. Fabio has to be very careful. But he might have an anaconda. No, he does not.
It's coincidentally how he finished his last fight against Eric Murray with the anaconda choke. That was 57 seconds in round one. He's already gone longer in this one. And again, Sharon's never been out of the second round in any pro fight, so we could be seeing that slow wading into uncharted waters if it does go that far.
I've seen Fabio in the gym. I think if it goes a little bit longer, I don't think he'd be like, you know, in trouble. I think he'd be okay. But again, we're talking quarantine now.
Sure.
Like, how much has he been training during quarantine?
And it's always a test that every fighter has to get out of the way at some point. You're always, at some point in your career, you're going to go the distance. You're going to get pushed or pressed by somebody. We saw it happen to John Gotti in his last bout. John Gotti, who's fighting in our main event. So every fighter reaches that point in his or her career. Nice right hand by Sharon.
Left hand.
Left hand, rather.
Left straight. Southpaw. Those crazy
My
southpaws.
monitor must be backwards.
Is the monitor? Yeah, it is.
Final 10 seconds of round number one. Our co-main event, Fabio Sharon in the white trunks, UG in the black. And this one's in the book. So good first round here for Sharon. Nice head kick to close it out. Nice little punctuation point before the bell. Always nice to show the judges one last shot right before that bell rings. Although this was a pretty good round for Sharon.
That was. It was a good round.
Not having to exert too much energy here, but there's that kick right there at the end. Some nice combinations. Lefts and rights. Sharon showing those fast hands. That right-left combo probably the best. Tried to follow with that uppercut. UG doing a nice job getting out of the way. But Sharon really controlled the round. Good pace early on to start. And now he goes into the second round for only the second time in his career as a pro. We'll see that cardio game come into effect. And again, a big opportunity for him tonight back on this Fight Pass stage. A chance to get back into the conversation with these light heavyweights. And you wonder going forward what the future does hold for him, whether it's in this weight class or if it's a heavier weight class. We'll really see how that plays out going forward. But right now, he has to focus more solely on UG, the opponent across the cage from him. Who, by the way, a great jiu-jitsu specialist, is a purple belt in BJJ. Also won a gold medal in the 2017 Pan Am Games. So G's a guy who can really bring it if he gets on the ground as well. So you got kind of not a contrast in styles, rather, but two styles that match up well against each other. We'll see who can exert his will to go into round number two here.
If I had to choose a side or a corner I was going to be in, I would probably be in Fabio's corner after that first round. I think that he was the one that you know, offered all of the danger. You know, UG had a couple good takedowns, but Fabio was hunting guillotines the entire time. He was working for Anaconda. You know, he landed the better strikes. You know, UG's in here, but it's been all Fabio so far.
Fabio looking calm as always. He's had some tough breaks, too, in his career. He's had a lot of fights that have been canceled, fighters not showing up, opponents backing out of fights, which can always be tough for the psyche of a fighter.
It's hard, you know, it's so hard because like you want to, you know, do everything you can to prepare the best of your ability, and you do that, and then a fight pulls out. You're like, okay, your next fight, you do it again, and the fight pulls out. It's like now you've done 2 or 3, so then like you kind of, maybe you don't, I'm not gonna say you know, don't give it all of your effort, but it's maybe not 100% all the way, and then the fight happens. And then
no, you start to get that mentality of what's going to happen
yeah.
next, and you never really know, and it can definitely affect the fighter. No question about it.
You don't believe the fight is going to happen sometimes. You think it's going to, you know, you think the worst. You think it's going to fall out on you.
Thankfully, UG is here in the building in the cage.
It's here.
The best thing you can ask for. Nice left hand again by Sharon. Starting to turn up the pressure a little bit with the striking. Round 2 of a Schedule 3 in our co-main event. John Gotti, Nick Alley on deck in our main event tonight. Once again, we are live at the tent at the Crown Plaza Hotel, Warwick, Rhode Island. New setting and the new normal for CES MMA. And this is event number 61 live on UFC Fight Pass. Once again, joined by my broadcast partner, Joe Lozon.
Both guys are 6'1", but Fabio definitely seems more comfortable with his range.
Definitely the bigger 6'1".
For sure.
And of course, we know UG has fought at middleweight, so he's been in different weight classes before. And you wonder if some of that has to do with fights maybe on short notice where you just step in there and you don't cut weight, or it's a different dynamic for everybody. That's a big left hand by Sharon, knocking G to the canvas.
Fabio's going to punch him. Don't be surprised if he locks up some kind of choke here, Anaconda.
And it's always a good opportunity when you got an opponent reeling, right, Joe, to kind of sneak in a choke because he sort of leaves something vulnerable at that point for you.
Sometimes guys go just into absolute survival mode, right? They're just trying to cover their face. They're trying to knock a hit. They're trying to turn the head away, and they just leave something open.
Another left cross there by Sharon. Again, another overhand left. That left hand is a weapon for Sharon here in round number 2. He sends G to the canvas with it once, and again he catches him on the way out. G's just not seeing it coming.
Fabio's definitely got the faster hands. More seasoned striker.
2:22 to go in round number 2. We'll see if G can survive. He's taking some shots here in this round. Fabio now going upstairs with a head kick attempt.
Fabio needs to stick to what he's been having success with. You know, he's been landing good left hands. He's been kind of moving his punches. He's kind of headhunting right now. He's trying to line up that knockout shot over and over.
And he's not too overzealous at this point. He's not getting himself in a position where he could get caught on the way in. He's calm, waiting for the opportunity.
I think he's just throwing one shot at a time, though. Before he was throwing a combination. Now he's got the head, though.
And again, that's a balance, right, Joe, between being like over-aggressive or just maybe laying back and throwing one at a time. You want to find that middle ground.
If Fabio's confident in his grip right here, he's going to jump and try to get full guard, so UG cannot dump his legs off to the side. UG's going to try and lift the legs and clear off to his right side, bring Fabio's head to his left. His head's out.
And there it is.
He's clear. He's safe.
90 seconds to go in round 2. Let's see if Sharon can spin out, get back to the center, and start unloading those left hands, which really has been the difference in this fight. It's that striking, that superior striking game by Sharon, which has really been the difference and will be the difference on the cards if it in fact goes that far. 1 more minute now to go in round 2. This one's scheduled for 3.
I think Fabio is really unconcerned with anything the UG is throwing at him. You know, maybe earlier in the fight, I think he was a little more concerned, but now I think that, you know, he realized that UG is tired and he's hurt, and he's not that concerned.
And does there come a point for a fighter, and I'm sure you've been in this situation before, where you kind of take the best of what he has to offer and your confidence level goes up if you get through that, and it kind of changes your trajectory going forward?
You obviously never want to get hit,
right?
Right? But sometimes when you know you got hit with the guy's best shot, and you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Like it definitely gives you some confidence, and you know, maybe you throw away your defense a little bit to try and land a little more offensive.
And that could be a factor in round 3 if this does actually go to 3 rounds here. We've got 15 seconds to go, but if Sharon gets into that 3rd round, perhaps this 2nd round will be the confidence booster where maybe he does let him go a little bit more in that final round to try to get the stoppage.
Fabio's definitely gaining confidence as the fight goes on. And UG is definitely shrinking a little bit.
And there's the bell. Round number 2 in the books. This one, all Fabio Sharon so far. Exceptional striking in the 2nd round in particular. A much different tone, a much different pace than it was in round number 1. And like you said, it seems like Sharon's actually gaining steam as he goes forward.
He's doing great.
You see these replays here. There's that right hand that's set up the left. G went down, and Sharon did try to go for the kill there at some point, but G did a nice job also keeping his head turned in the right way and not absorbing those shots.
So unlike the last fight with Ashika Jim and Chris Martino, Fabio landed a good shot, and he jumped on him right away.
Yes.
If Ashika jumped on Martino the same way, maybe that fight would have gone the other way.
Could have been a whole different story. Sometimes it's a matter of seconds, Joe, that can be the difference between winning or losing or a fight going on longer than it maybe should. And we certainly think that might have been the case for Ashika Jim in our previous bout. But for now, it's Fabio Sharon, aggressive, showing exceptional cardio here. And now for the first time in his career, he goes into round number 3. So I'm sure there's going to be some level of satisfaction at some point. You do want to get to this point, and you want to get tested. You want to get pushed a little bit. And UG has really been the kind of perfect adversary for that, for Sharon to not only just test the cardio, but also show his skills and not be in too much of a danger zone here going into this round.
Yeah, it's hard. Sometimes, like, when you have really, really fast fights, it's almost held against you sometimes. Like, with it was a lucky punch, it was a lucky submission, a lucky guillotine, you know, Fabio's now, he's demonstrated a lot of his skills. You know, he's gotten taken down, he's gotten back up to his feet. He's tried to work a couple submissions. He wasn't successful, but he got decently close, and he landed some great shots on the feet.
That's a good point, too. It's not just about showing the cardio and showing your endurance, but showing all your weapons, showing everything you have to offer. Sometimes in a fight, you work on so many things in a camp, right, Joe? And you don't get to actually use them all in the fight. 'Cause that can be, it's good to get the win, right? But it can be a little frustrating on the flip side.
And sometimes it takes years to develop certain tools, and like you don't ever want to show them. You want to kind of keep it in your back pocket. You don't want to show everything you got. So when you need it, it's going to be there. It'll be years and years. You'll be working on something. So it's kind of like finding that balance of like, having to use all your best tools and keeping them a secret.
Once again, Michael Parenti joined by Joe Lozon. We are live at CES 61 on UFC Fight Pass, bringing you all the action cage side from the tent at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Warwick, Rhode Island. First time at this venue. The hospitality has been tremendous. And certainly a new dynamic than we're used to, but may perhaps be the new normal going forward for quite some time.
So Fabio's doing a good job right now keeping that right arm as an overhook, because that's going to stop UG from getting on his back. Oh, he's got the neck. He's probably going to sit for this. He's going to push him into the fence. Oh, he's good. Surviving.
G's certainly wearing down at this point, but doing a nice job just staying in the fight and certainly making Sharant work for this, as any fighter would want to do. And we'll see how this goes here now. If Sharant can get another submission here, or if he can break free again and let the hands go. Because I expect him to be still, as this round goes on, it's early, a little more aggressive striking-wise, because it's worked so well, and it worked so well in that second round. Maybe we'll see a little bit more of that going forward.
This kind of grind is tiring, So, for Fabio, it's tiring because he keeps wrapping his arm around for guillotines and trying to, almost maybe jump and squeeze for the guillotine versus not, which is tiring. And then UG is now fighting hard for takedowns. It's, he doesn't want to have Fabio keep peppering him on the feet. He wants to hit a takedown and try his luck on the ground.
And G certainly in uncharted territory himself here in the third round of a fight, and perhaps facing the first loss of his career, both as a pro or amateur. Sharant, meanwhile, trying to improve his record to 6-1 if he can get the victory. So far, he's looked great through 2 rounds. Still a lot of time left in the third here, 2.5 to be exact. You hear Sharant's corner calling for him to finish the fight. They can see that fatigue setting in on UG.
Fabio definitely has to, put his foot on the gas and step on it a little bit.
Yeah.
He's got UG in a bad spot where he's tired and
flat-footed.
He's flat-footed.
Not really moving well. This is an opportunity here to potentially pick him apart and end this fight with a bang. We'll see if Sharant is up for the challenge. 2 minutes to go. The third and final round of this light heavyweight co-main event. Still more to come. Sharant, of course, in the white and green trunks. G in the black. But again, it seems like Sharant just comfortable with this pace. He's not going to get overzealous. There's also going to be that thought in the back of your mind where you don't want to get caught yourself trying to be a little too over-aggressive, trying to find that delicate balance.
You can't. Yeah, that's a good point. You cannot be too aggressive. You just get caught. You'll be forced to pay for it.
And you got to think in the back of his mind, he remembers the fight on the Contender Series where he was, like you said, performing well.
He was doing
made
great.
A mistake, got caught. It can sometimes make
That's
a fighter a little tentative. I'm sure as a fighter, it can sometimes take a while to kind of get over that too.
Yeah, no, for sure. You remember those. It stings. It stings real bad.
Final minute here of round 3, and now Sharant letting it go. Some looping rights and lefts as G just sort of backpedals, gets on the bicycle, and gets out of harm's way. We'll see if Sharant can put a punctuation point or exclamation point on this performance. Been a very good performance for him. First time in his career he's been in the third round of a pro fight. Still looks good, still looks confident, doesn't look gassed. He's got energy. He's got everything going for him right now.
At this point, UG is kind of in survival mode. He's not being super aggressive with his punches. He's not really trying to end the fight. He's trying to not get hurt, not get knocked out, not get submitted, but he's not fighting for a takedown anymore. He's not really trying to be aggressive. He's just in there. He's moving around, trying to play it safe, which happens.
As we reach these final 30 seconds, too, it's worth noting it's a good test for Fabio Sharant to see a different look from an opponent, and also, like you said, get into this third round and deal with the fighter who's in this kind of mode and see what you have to do as a fighter on the flip side to be able to combat that. So a good opportunity here tonight for Sharant, I think, not just to get the win, but to sort of empty the playbook a little bit, so to speak, and show a few things off on UFC Fight Pass.
And this is also great for UG because he's in there with a guy that has a lot more experience, that's been in much bigger fights than he has, who's bigger. UG had most of his fights at middleweight.
That's right.
So he's in there with a bigger, more experienced guy, and he held his own.
Definitely a lot to take to the bank for both fighters tonight as that final bell rings. 3 rounds in the books between Fabio Cherant and Yuji in our light heavyweight co-main event. And, of course, this one tonight, all Fabio Cherant, who looked great, I thought, from the opening bell. We saw him kind of ratchet up the intensity in that second round, really letting his hands go. Third round, more of the same. But, again, I think the biggest thing, too, Joe, you saw a lot of maturity from Cherant in this fight. For a guy who is 25 years of age and looking to get back to that big stage, sometimes the guy can be a little bit over-aggressive. We talked about in that third round how he didn't try to get too ahead of himself to try to get the finish. Every fighter wants to finish. We know Mitch Raposa talked about it tonight, about wanting to get that finish and being desperate to get it, but not doing it at the expense of your own performance and not getting yourself into a situation where you could get caught or make a mistake. I thought Cherant showed a lot of things tonight. Great cardio and really maturity.
He did. He did great, and he didn't get overexcited. He tagged Yuji a couple times with good shots and, didn't get overexcited, didn't, blow his all his energy. Yeah. So, but he did great. Fabio did a good job.
See some of the replays here, some of the action late in the third round where Cherant really started to charge with those looping lefts and rights, and that's really when G went more into survival mode than he had been in the previous few minutes in the round. So just a great performance overall. As it stands, Cherant will go to 6-1 with this win. This will be back-to-back victories since his appearance on the Contender Series. So a nice step forward from him again. And this is a guy, as we mentioned, who's had a hard time getting fights. He's had guys back out of fights, days, sometimes almost hours before fights. And, it can be tough on a fighter, as we mentioned, Joe, during the broadcast. It can be tough to sort of get up mentally, get off the couch again and get back to it, knowing, hey, something could go wrong here. But Cherant really showing a lot of poise. We mentioned some of the things that you want to see him work on, and no question he has to work on those things, but a real nice step forward tonight.
Yep. No, he did great. And like you said, there's so many battles you have to fight. Every single day you're fighting a battle, like you're going to get up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m., whatever you're going to do. You're going to get that road work done or go lifting or whatever you're going to do. Like, it's hard, day in and day out. It's not just fight night,
Well, our co-main event in the books, we're going to send it over to our cage announcer, Adam Plazio, who has the official scores.
After 3 tough rounds, we go to the scorecards. Judge Joe Feldman scored the fight 30-27. Judge Nick Mahmood scored the fight 30-26. Judge Sean Flanagan scored the fight 29-28 for your winner by unanimous decision, Fabio, the Water Buffalo, Cherant.
So there it is. No surprise on the scorecards at all. Unanimous decision victory for Fabio Cherant, who just clears the deck tonight against Yuji. And again, just a couple of final takeaways, Joe. A lot of maturity, a lot of poise on Cherant's part tonight to get that victory. He now improves to 6-1. And this was a guy who, despite being a late bloomer, had never lost a fight as a pro or amateur. So he was really up against it tonight, and I thought just came through with flying colors.
No, he did great. He fought a great fight. He fought a smart fight. He was never in any bad spots, but he was in a couple semi-bad spots. He went for a guillotine and got taken down, but did a great job working his way back up. He just fought a great fight.
Cherant having an opportunity tonight against Yuji, a very game opponent, a guy who's fought at different weights throughout his career, but an opportunity to finally go 3 rounds and just test the waters a bit, right? Dip your toes in the water, see what it's like to get into those rounds. And again, we talk about it, whether it's boxing or MMA, it's one thing to do it in sparring and spar 15, 20 rounds, but to have a guy in your face the entire time who's looking to take your head off, it's a much different story. But Fabio Cherant survives it and does a great job. And now we're going to send it over to Adam Plazio, who has our winner, Fabio Cherant.
All right, Mike, on cage side right here in the Rigna Irish Pub post-fight interview right now with the man with the best nickname in the sport, the Water Buffalo, Fabio Cherant. Longest fight, Fabio, of your pro career. Talk us through what happened tonight.
It's fucking tough. Sorry for swearing, but that was a tough fight. I took this fight on short days, 6 days notice, It was tough to get prepared for a guy that's undefeated, 3-0, 3 first-round finishes. A little doubt in the head if I'd be able to pull this off tonight, but hey, pulled it off. Very slick.
Fabio, let's talk strategy. First round, you looked like you were trying to go submissions. You get 5 submission victories already. And then second round looked like you were going striking. Third round, a little bit more of confident Fabio, just trying to control the pace.
As soon as he shot in for the takedown, it's kind of a habit for me to go for that guillotine. And then I figured that he's going to defend it well, so I just used it to buy me time to find a way to get up. Once I got up, I started to find my groove in the second round where everything kicked in,
Fabio Cherant, one last question. 2020, It's been an awkward year. It's been a tough year. Talk about any challenges you've had getting in the gym, training, and getting ready for this fight.
As you guys know, I've had a really tough time this year, especially making weight, you know. It's part of the process. I've only been doing this for 4.5 years. You know, I'm still learning as I go, and I promise my next fight will be a different fighter, on weight, ready to kill.
Fabio, the Water Buffalo Charant, one of the more exciting names in the game. Let's send it back up to the booth with Mike Parenti and Joe Lozon.
See you guys.
All right, thank you, Adam. Fabio Charant, once again, your winner in the co-main event tonight. 6 fights in the books, 1 more to go. Coming up is our highly anticipated main event of the evening, and this is one we've been waiting for a long time. John Guy III, superstar welterweight in the making, perfect 5-0 record. We talk about fighters who have to step up at some point, right, and ramp up the level of competition. And Gotti was a guy who had won 4 fights, all by first-round finishes. Really hadn't had a chance to show off the arsenal. Last time out at CES MMA 60, took on Marcos Lareda, went 3 full rounds, and in those 9 minutes, or 15 minutes rather, I thought showed more than he had ever shown in the previous bouts. He faced some adversity. He was on his back a couple times. At times looked like Laredo might actually take his back and lock in a submission, but Gotti fought through everything and in the end won by decision, and I thought his most complete performance today.
No, he did great for sure. You know, I was, you know, I'm not going to say I was a doubter, but I was one of those guys like, okay, well, this guy has a lot of hype. Is it just because of his name? Is he a good fighter? Like, what's the deal? You know, he did what a lot of fighters do. They take, you know, a little bit safer fights the first couple, but I was super impressed with the last fight against Lareda. He did a great job. Like, he proved that he belongs. He proved that he's a really good fighter.
And that's a great point you make. There's a lot on his shoulders, right? It's the Gotti name for sure, right? And then all the hype that comes with his performance in the cage.
Absolutely.
There are people that may wait for him to fail or maybe want to see him fail or are skeptical about it until they actually see him in a tough fight like that. I think John Gotti silenced many doubters in that last bout, and now he's stepping up tonight in another dangerous fight against Nick Alley, New Hampshire native, and a guy who is known to be a real thorn in the side for a lot of guys through the years.
Yeah, for sure. You know, Gotti definitely, like we said before, you know, had a lot of hype, all this other stuff. A lot of people were trying to tear him down. They were dying for him to not do very well. But now he's got another real opponent in front of him. He's got to show up. And
Nick Alley is a guy, a submission specialist, has 5 victories by submission in his career, so we know what he brings to the table. Let's take a look back at yesterday's weigh-in and hear what both fighters had to say.
My name is John Guy III. I'm 5-0, and I fight in the welterweight division.
My name is Nick Alley. I'm a welterweight fighter. My record is 6-3, and I'm fighting out of Team Link, New Hampshire, in Hotel.
I'm preparing during COVID here nonstop. Just training since my last fight ended, just improving my game and getting better. You know, these times were unexpected, and nobody expected this, but you got to find a way when you're a professional.
So I was able to train pretty much, 3-4 days a week, at least on my own, get a lot of drilling in. I didn't put on too much weight, thankfully. I was a good boy, so it wasn't too bad. I was actually training to fight on another card that fell through, so when I got the call for this, I was ready to roll.
I know Nick is a tough kid. You know, he's been on the regional circuit for a while. I've been familiar with him. You know, he's fought some tough guys. He's been in some tough fights. Yeah, he comes from a good team. You know, I'm sure he's coming ready for this fight and prepared, and like we are, and I'm sure it'll be a good show.
His last fight, Laredo, it definitely showed a lot of opportunities to make good gains against him. I got a lot of things I plan on doing. I can stand up with him. If he wants to stand up and strike, I can stand up and strike with him.
Well, for example, my last fight was my first 3-round fight. It was a back and forth fight. You know, I got put in difficult positions in that fight. So I learned more in that one fight than I have in my previous 4 fights. You know, so you constantly learn every fight, whether it's quick or if it's a long fight. You'll take away, even if it's something little, you'll take away something from that particular fight.
The fight's going to go everywhere. His fights have a tendency to go to every aspect of it. So I'm dangerous and ready on the ground. I'm dangerous and ready on the feet. I haven't, obviously we'll figure out how the finish comes, but I don't think each one of us goes in the cage without one of us finishing the other.
But to Nick Alley, I'll see you October 14th. Come ready, because I'm coming ready, and it's going to be fireworks.
John, you know I'm your toughest fight, so let's have some fun tomorrow.
61. Let's welcome our first competitor to the cage. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Alley.
And here comes Nick Alley fighting out of Hooksett, New Hampshire. A lot of similarities between Alley and Gotti when you look at the tail of the tape, so to speak. Alley is 29 years of age, Gotti 27. Both fighters have enough on their resumes where they've been deep into the pro game right now. Both are 6 feet tall. But the one thing about Nick Alley, Joe, is that he's really fought most of his career under the radar, so to speak, not really in the bright lights like Gotti has been. But the one thing we can talk about with Nick Alley, 100% finishing rate, has never been taken the distance in any of his 9 previous fights, and is on a 3-fight win streak right now, all by submission. So we thought Marcos Laredo was a step up. This is an even bigger step up tonight for John Gotti.
For sure. You know, like he started 3-0 as a pro, then he lost a couple, and then he's won his last 3. So it's definitely, you know, it's a guy that he's finished a lot of his opponents, all of his opponents that he's beat. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all goes. You know, Gotti is, you know, obviously he has a lot of naysayers. He has a lot of people support him, you know, like, but he's stepping up. He's fighting good guys.
And the one thing that can be dangerous about those streaky fighters is you never know which way the streak is going,
yes,
right?
It's true.
He's won 3 in a row. Is he about to go on a 6-7 fight win streak, or is he about to hit the skid again? You never really know. And that, of course, has a lot to do with how John Gotti performs tonight. But what we do know about Nick Alley, he has been in the CS MMA cage before. He took on Gary Boletto Jr., another high-profile welterweight in the Northeast Circuit, and now steps in there tonight against John Gotti. Not a lot of guys want to fight John Gotti III. They know that the hype is there. They know the performance and the execution is there. So it shows a lot just by Nick Alley, to me, to step into this bout. He was actually supposed to fight against Marcus Davis in March, so he was actually training for a bout early on this year. That fight, of course, got canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic, so it's been quite a while for Nick Alley. In fact, it's been since February of 2019, so you're talking a long, long layoff. We always talk about whether rust will be a factor. You never really know how it's going to go. We're going to see tonight as we move forward. But, of course, tonight, a big opportunity, a big step-up out for Alley as he takes on John Gotti III.
I think this is going to be a really interesting fight because I think this is going to be kind of a grappler versus striker. You know, John Gotti has won, I think, pretty much all of his fights by some kind of TKO, KO. You know, whereas Nick Alley, he's won most of his fights by submission. So it's going to be another one of those grappler versus striker kind of fights.
You're right. He does have that grappling ability. Alley is a blue belt in BJJ. Also grew up playing baseball, so a well-rounded athlete. Actually was recruited to play college baseball, believe it or not, but chose the MMA route. So we talked early in the broadcast about a lot of the wrestlers who choose the MMA route. This is a guy who actually showed the skills on the diamond and maybe could have been playing in the MLB playoffs tonight for all we know, but he chose this path, and it's brought us here tonight to Warwick, Rhode Island, the tent at the Crown Plaza Hotel. We're very excited to be here again and bring you this action. Once again, Michael Parenti, Joe Lozon, live cage side on UFC Fight Pass. We are in line for an epic, dynamic main event. I'm looking forward to seeing it myself as Nick Alley enters the cage. We're about to get to his opponent, John Gotti.
And his opponent, making his way to the cage, John Gotti III.
And here he comes, John Gotti III, 5-0 record, perfect, unblemished, coming off a big win over Marcos Laredo in his last bout. Joe, a guy who really has all the tools, right? We've heard so much about his progress as a pro, exceptional striking, fast hands, and we finally in that last bout got to see what he could do on the ground, but more importantly, what he could do when faced with a little bit of adversity.
He worked out of some really bad positions in his last fight. You know, like, you know, there were a lot of people that, you know, thought that he was kind of just the name and he wasn't a balanced fighter, wasn't a well-rounded fighter, but he proved that he belongs and he's good.
I think every fighter needs that at some point. You certainly don't want to get in a position where you might be on the brink of losing, but perhaps you want to be in a position where, hey, I got to snap out of it here if I don't want to lose this bout. I got to step up and do it. Gotti did it in his last bout, and now we here tonight, CES 61, another tough test for our main event bout of the evening. We're going to send it up to our cage announcer, Adam Palazzo, with the official introduction.
This event is sanctioned by the Rhode Island Department of Business Regulation, Division of Gaming and Athletics Licensing. Elizabeth Tanner, Director. Pamela Toro, Associate Director. Christina Tobias, Gaming and Athletics Administrator. Peter Timothy, Gaming and Athletics. Our referees tonight have been John English and Alan Lau. Judges, Sean Flanagan, Nick Mahmood, Paul Asmer, and Joseph Feldman. Physicians cage side are Dr. Peter de Blasio and Assistant Michael Ray. Ladies and gentlemen watching on UFC Fight Pass, this is your main event. Brought to you by High Octane Classics in Auburn, Mass. and Providence Auto Body at 350 Silver Spring Street in Providence, Rhode Island. The following fight is scheduled for 3 5-minute rounds in the welterweight division. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing the green and black trunks. He weighed in at 170 pounds. His pro record, 6 wins, 3 losses, with 5 big victories by way of submission. Hailing from Hooksett, New Hampshire, ladies and gentlemen around the world, Nick J.C. Ali. And his opponent, fighting out of the red corner, wearing the black trunks with the gold trim. He weighed in at 169 pounds. His pro record, perfect. 5 wins, no losses, with 4 big victories coming by first round knockout. Hailing from Oyster Bay, New York, fans around the world, John Gotti III. The referee in charge of the action, Mr. John English.
And here we go, our main event of the evening. John Gotti III in the black and gold trunks taking on Nick Ali in the green. 3 rounds in the welterweight division, live from CES 61 at the tent at the Crown Plaza Hotel. Michael Parenti once again joined by my broadcast partner Joe Lozon, and we're in for a good one tonight, Joe. A real big step-up fight, big opportunity for both sides as they close out our show in style. John Gotti, of course, coming in with a perfect 5-0 record. He's got 4 wins by first-round knockout. Went the distance in his last bout. Nick Ali comes in at 6-3. He's won 3 in a row. Very streaky fighter who right now is on a hot streak. So something to look forward to and something to watch out for if and when this bout does progress.
Gotti's throwing some heaters right off the bat.
As he's accustomed to do. Gotti, a fast starter and an equally fast finisher as we've seen in the past. Tries to snap that overhand right. And like we said, the tools are all there. The amateur background is there. It's a big opportunity for him against a tough, dangerous fighter like Ali. And, of course, the big opportunity for Nick Ali, full-time mechanic, works as a day job. This is a chance where if you beat a guy like John Gotti, it puts you in the conversation, right?
For sure.
I mean, it's headlines all over the world for that kind of a victory. So you can see the opportunity and you can see the trajectory that both fighters could take here if they come away with this victory. A lot at stake for both sides.
So many careers are made off of like one big win. You beat one big-name guy, and it can do so much for you. Gotti needs to be careful. He's setting up a triangle. Not too much trouble just yet. He's got to be aware.
And Gotti, as we mentioned, kind of found himself in some precarious positions in that last bout against Marco Serreta. Came through each one, showed a lot of poise, showed the ability to bounce back, not panic, which is more important than anything else because he had never really been tested like that as a pro. And I was impressed with how he came through it. And I think he's going to face some situations tonight. If this fight, in fact, goes as long as we expect it to go, I think he'll face a couple of those. And it will be interesting to see how he responds again second time around.
I like how you brought up the fact that he didn't panic in his last fight, because there's so many times people don't understand like how like you have to make like a split-second decision.
Right.
And you go left and you get safety, and you go right and you make it way worse. And like sometimes like you get caught up and you don't. Sometimes you're not as well versed. You don't know which way to go, so you just have to make a decision. And sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. But Gotti did a great job in his last fight.
Gotti trying to work that rib cage previously against Ali. Soften him up a bit here with 2.5 to go in the opening round.
So Nick Ali's using his left arm as an overhook, and he's going to try to bring his right shin inside Gotti's arm on his right side. Try to set up a triangle.
And this is not a spot where Ali's uncomfortable. He's got 5 wins by submission, so he's been in this position before where he's had to win fights, whether on his back or on the ground.
Here comes that triangle. He's trying to set it up. Try and fight his foot right in. Gotti's doing a good job of controlling the ankle.
Gotti trying to control, push that foot back down. 2 minutes to go in round 1. Early action on the ground in this opening bout, or opening round rather.
Ali's doing a pretty good job of not taking damage on the ground. You know, generally speaking, guy on top is winning the fight, you know, but Gotti's not been able to deal too much damage while he's on top.
You're right. It could be two different avenues there, right?
100%.
If you're the fighter on the top, you're either wailing away and landing some shots, or you're just kind of controlling the fight. And this is a situation where a guy is controlling but not really inflicting a lot of damage just yet.
If you're the guy in the bottom, you don't want either one of those to happen, but
No.
you'd much rather have a guy control you than, beat the crap out of you.
It's been a long time, as we mentioned, since Ali's been in the cage. February of 2019 to be exact. And then, of course, the COVID pandemic shutting things down in March. It canceled Ali's bout against Marcus Davis, which was scheduled for March. So you're talking almost 19 months, more than 19 months, really, since he's been there. Gotti breaks free for a second, lands a couple of overhands.
That's got to suck. You have a year off. You get geared up for like this big
Sure.
fight against a guy like Marcus Davis, who's UFC veteran. This guy's really good. And then worldwide pandemic.
hits. Yeah, I mean, you kind of think at that point, what else could possibly go wrong? But a nice opportunity here on the flip side for him against John Guy III. Big showcase bout, again, for both sides here at CES 61. Final minute of round number 1. This one's scheduled for 3 in the welterweight division.
Here comes that triangle. He's trying to set up a triangle on the opposite side now.
Second time now where Ali's trying to work the submission. Final 30 seconds.
The triangle's there. Yeah, Gotti's got to get some good posture. He's got pretty good posture right now. I think he'll be okay. He broke it.
Gotti's a strong kid. He's a former bodybuilder. Actually weighed 250 pounds and, of course, all muscle at one point in his life. So when you talk about being able to have the leverage to pick somebody off the ground like that in a triangle, he's the guy that can do it for sure.
So 250 down to, fighting
170.
170 pounds.
Imagine cutting 80 pounds, Joe. A lot of it muscle, of course.
I don't like cutting 8 pounds. I don't mind 80.
Round 1 in the books between John Gotti and Nick Ali. This one, of course, scheduled for 3, our main event at CES 61. Joe, takeaways from that opening round there. What'd you see?
So Gotti did a good job. He controlled for the most part. Ali was trying to set up a triangle from the bottom, so I'm sure I think Gotti's corner right now is telling him, like, make sure you're keeping an eye on the triangle. You got to make sure you defend. You got to keep good posture. But it was a good round. Gotti did a good job controlling.
And certainly Gotti's ground game cannot be underestimated, and he has shown the ability to fight off his back and to control the game or control the fight on the ground in the past, most notably against Marcos Ferreira. But Gotti, of course, is a natural striker and wants to be in the center of the cage trading some shots. And we'll see if he can let his hands go in this round and avoid the takedown scenario where he's now forced into a different mindset, right? Because, Joe, once you kind of get taken down, the game plan sort of gets put on the back burner, and now it's a whole different set of plans and moves to get yourself back into that position.
It really changes everything. Wrestling is really the most important aspect of a fight, because if you have the better wrestling, you can dictate if the fight is on the feet or if it's on the ground. Generally, you don't have an advantage in both spots, right? You generally, this guy's a better striker, so I have to take him down, or I'm better on my feet, so I need to keep the fight up. So wrestling is generally the most important aspect of the fight.
Ali coming out firing in round 2. Took a shot upstairs with a head kick. Now Gotti's got him pressed against the cage. So Gotti try a little front leg kick there to start the round. A little bit of a distance finder, maybe to try to keep Ali at bay for possibly shooting for a takedown. Looks like Gotti trying to get that hook in. Maybe go for this takedown, and he gets it.
Protect his neck.
Both fighters scrambling back to their feet. 30 seconds into round number 1. Again with a head kick attempt upstairs by Ali. Now a nice shot to the body, going back upstairs on Gotti, again with the kick. Ali showing a nice repertoire here, a little bit of a diverse attack.
He's had a very good reverse attack. Some wrestling, some kicks, some punches.
There it is again, right? Rear leg, front leg, goes to the body, then goes upstairs. You really can't just get locked into one thing, Joe, especially against a guy like Gotti.
It's hard, 'cause sometimes people get tunnel vision. Like, they try to do just one thing. The guys that do best are guys that vary their attack. They come low, they come high, they work in a takedown, they force a clinch, they try to snap your head down, they try and knee you in the head, they keep it coming all the time.
It seems like Gotti wants to be aggressive here, but Ali's really pressing the issue, and it seems like controlling the center of the cage here early in this round and not letting Gotti or allowing Gotti to charge in like we're used to seeing him in the past.
I feel like Gotti in general has more of like a boxer's approach to striking. He's more heavy-handed with his fists, and Ali seems to be a little bit more diverse with the kicks.
There's a nice short right cross attempt by Gotti, then he shot in for the potential takedown attempt here at the 3:09 mark. Round number 2 of a scheduled 3. This is our main event, CES MMA 61, live from the tent at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Warwick, Rhode Island. We're bringing you the action live on Fight Pass. Michael Parenti once again joined by Joe Lozon. We got John Guy III in the black and gold trunks. Those are the Rocky Balboa Rocky II Apollo Creed rematch trunks. and Nick Alley in the black and the lime green.
Gotti's got to get a little bit more aggressive when he's in that clinch there. You can't just stay there and let the guy hang on your head. Oh, Gotti's going to be careful. He's going to get dumped. He's going to get dumped.
Alley trying to flip him over the top.
Shake him, shake him, shake him.
Gotti's got decent posture here. Alley's got both hands on the canvas. It looks like the referee telling Gotti to get that foot off the cage.
So Gotti's in a bad way right now because his center of gravity is so far forward, he can't pull himself back. Alley's just going to kind of shake a little bit, and gravity's going to do the work. And he's probably going to land on top of Gotti. He can't put his hooks in. He's too heavy.
We'll see where this one ends up here. I'm kind of waiting for the boom to be lowered at some point. 2 minutes to go here in round 2. As you said.
I think we're going to see Alley reach up and grab on the back of Gotti's head and kind of pull him forward. He'll get dumped.
Looks like he's trying with that right hand, Joe.
Yep.
Yeah, there it is. Soft landing.
Yep.
But an opportunity for some ground and pound, and it looks like Gotti might be cut on the forehead. There's blood. It's somebody's blood. Not sure who, but it looks like it might be Gotti who sustained a cut.
I can't tell you it either, but
yeah. You wonder if perhaps he got clipped on the way in or what might have happened. But it'll be interesting to look at that going forward. We haven't had any real major cuts tonight in either of these previous 6 bouts.
Yep.
It's been a slow night for the cut men.
Cut man, rather. That blood also behind the ear, but it looks like that may be over the left eye of Gotti. I'm kind of just speculating here just from the view we have. But in any event, Gotti now in a tough spot on his back here with 1 minute to go in round number 2. Much better round for Alley. You got to think if it continues like this for the rest of the round, you're probably 1-1 going to the 3rd. Makes for an exciting main event.
You always love a winner take all round.
Yeah, right.
Right, going into the finale. It's kind of like the Game 7 of MMA.
Yep.
Final minute now for Gotti, who's got to do something quickly here to turn the tide in this second round. So right now, Nick Alley in control. And now you start talking about if you do go into that scenario where it's 1-1 going into round 3, you start talking about game plans and who's going to do what and how you're going to come out. And those first 30 seconds of a round can really decide how it goes.
I'm looking at it now from this angle. It almost looks like the blood might be from Nick Alley's left elbow.
Right, it's hard to tell because it's obviously mostly on Gotti's forehead.
It's Gotti's forehead.
It looks like the left eye, right, Joe?
Yep.
Right above the left eye?
Yep.
And this is where the cut man comes into play. Scott Ream going to have his work cut out for him in between rounds. And that's a big factor, Joe, right? Patching that up going into the 3rd round. It's the most important round of the fight. You don't want any distractions that you don't need.
Over the eye is the worst spot, too. You know, under the eye, not a big deal. You know, it's not going to get into your eye, you know, but over the eye is a big deal.
Round 2 in the books here. Big round for Nick Alley, and we see Scott Ream go right to work on John Gotti's cut. If you're going to have anybody work a cut, it's going to be Scott Ream. He's the best in the business.
Good enough for the UFC. Good enough for anybody.
Good enough for CES MMA 61, that's for sure. So, Joe, take us through round 2 here. This was a big round for Nick Alley. You know, what did he do differently in that round that he didn't really get to do in round 1?
So I think he changed up his attack a little bit more. You know, in the first round, he was kind of controlled. He was kind of on his back. We talked a little earlier how, like, you really don't want to fight from your back. You know, you're trying to get up most of the time. You know, you don't see a lot of submissions off your back. In the second round, he did a much better job. He was attacking from a lot of different places. He was throwing kicks. He was throwing punches. He was clinching. He was wrestling. You know, and it just really it came down to a scramble. You know, Gotti tried to get it on his back, and he just dumped him off and landed a couple elbows, opened up a cut.
Yeah, you're seeing the replay here where Gotti kind of just got pulled back down to the canvas. Like you said, Alley was going to grab him by the back of the head, pull him down, and that's where he really started landing some of those short right hands. Gotti, though, appeared to be cut before that, even on the way down, so he must have sustained that cut somewhere in the scrap or that clinch against the cage.
Could have been a clash of heads or whatever. It's hard.
We don't really know how they scored or how it was, but in any event, it looks like if it's our unofficial scorecard between you and I'd say 1-1 going into this final round. And this really makes these final 5 minutes here all exciting. We'll see if John Gotti can do what he's done best in his career, which is let his hands go and strike. He's got 5 minutes to turn the tide here and possibly pull out a victory. Nice leg kick there by Alley. Just sent Gotti crashing to the canvas, but he pops right back up. So here we are, 3rd and final round of a Schedule 3. Nice right hand by Alley. That one really caught Gotti off guard. And now Alley takes advantage of the little break there and pushes Gotti back against the cage.
Got his hands locked.
And a big slam by Alley.
Takedown.
Tough spot here now for Gotti, Joe.
This is hard. So Gotti just made what I think is kind of like a classic mistake of, like, he gave up his back. He should have maintained the overhook, but he gave up his back. Now he's got Alley on his back.
Not the ideal start for Gotti, who got clipped with the right, got taken down, and now he's going to try to fight his way off his back again. Alley trying to maybe try to lock in a rear naked choke here. He's not going to have anything going at the moment, but he's in the position at least. planting the seeds, so to speak, here with 4 minutes to go.
So I wouldn't mind being where John Gotti is right now because the fence is to the back of Ali, so he can't really extend the way he'd like to. He turned into him.
Nice job there by Gotti to spin back out. Now
careful.
We'll see.
Here comes that triangle again.
That triangle attempt here again by Ali. Got both legs around Gotti's head.
He's in a bad way.
Gotti's certainly in a trouble spot here.
I think he's in trouble here.
And it's unlike anything we saw in the Laredo fight. That was a tough fight, but he really wasn't in any pressing danger here like he is now.
Ali's got the triangle locked in. He's going to hang on the head. Gotti's going to have a really tough time getting out of this.
And a lot of time on the clock too here. 3.5 to go. Time really on Nick Ali's side if you really break it down.
If Ali is patient, he'll probably get the triangle. If he tries to switch off to an arm lock or something, then it'll probably give Gotti second life. But if he stays here and hangs on the head, it's going to be really hard.
Well, can Nick Ali pull off the upset? Gotti does
he
sneak out of it, so that's a big transition for John Gotti. And now we'll just see if it comes down to pure strength here, Joe.
Well, Ali just used a lot of energy trying to finish that off. Gotti might get dumped off again.
Gotti looked like he was trying to take his back.
This is not quite as bad this time. He's not quite as high. He's still going to not in the best spot, but he's able to bail off.
Gotti this time slides off to the side. It's got Ali against the cage. I think it would be in Gotti's best interest to sort of press back and try to get back out and get some separation. But again, he's back down to the canvas.
He's trying to force the back control. Ali popped out.
Now side control for Ali. Cut does not look like it's a factor right now, at least for the moment. We have 2.5 to go in the final round.
Not right now, but sometimes like when you're laying on your back like this, now you have the blood's going to try to pool in your eye. Like he's looking off to his left, so it's not as bad.
Oh, there it is now. Yeah, and it's actually going to the back of his head, like you said.
So it's fortunate.
Away from the eye, which is good for Gotti.
Sometimes it will pool into your eye, which is no good.
2:09 to go here. Real red zone action right now, if you want to call it that, for John Gotti.
Sure.
Got to get off his feet and do something here in these final 2 minutes to try to salvage this bout, because right now it looks like it's leaning toward Nick Ali.
Yeah, Gotti definitely is not winning this round so far. He needs to get back up to his feet and make something happen.
A little short elbow there by Ali. It's certainly a different class of grappler that Gotti is facing tonight, and it's showing here in these last 2 rounds. But Gotti's been known to pull out some quick finishes in the past. Still has time, 90 seconds. Has to probably make a move now, Joe, or at least some point in the next few seconds here to try to get back to his feet.
100%. He's got to try and pop up. He's got to get that left arm as an underhook. He's got to pop up to his feet, get up on his right hand. It's hard, though, because now we're in the 3rd round. It hasn't been an easy fight.
No.
It's been back and forth.
Much easier said than done maybe in the 1st round as opposed to the 3rd when you've been through a grinding war like this. Fatigue is clearly setting in here.
But Gotti won the 1st round, but then Ali got the best of him in the 2nd. And now, it's been mostly Ali in the 3rd.
I mean, listen, we said Ali's strength was grappling, and he's shown it in the last 2 rounds. He's showing it right here. Final 50 seconds here. John Gotti in some trouble. If you're Ali, you'd surely love to hang on here right now
100%.
for dear life and just let it ride out. But if you're Gotti, of course, you got to make a quick move.
Ali could use his right knee right here and push down on Gotti's elbow and get his arm free. But if he doesn't get his arm out, he could get in trouble too.
A lot can happen here in these final 30 seconds. Looks like we're going to go to the cards, barring anything crazy or cataclysmic here in this final.
Gotti had his arm, but he's lost it now. If you're Ali, you must have to just hang on.
Gotti just trying to get to his feet, but Ali gets him and presses him back down for the final 10 seconds. And now, Ali just staying busy with some right hands and lefts.
He's going to go to the cards, but it's definitely an Ali 3rd round. It depends how who really won the 2nd round is what you got to think about.
Right.
Did we just, did we like the idea of it being, 1-1 going to the 3rd? Or was the second round?
Did we talk ourselves into that, or was that really the case?
Because it's a nice idea. It's a nice. It's like it all comes down to this. It all comes down to this 3rd round.
Nick Ali's corner certainly celebrating like they've won the fight.
Yep.
If you had to ask me right now, I'd score it 2-1 Ali. We'll see what the scorecards say, but definitely a much stronger performance toward the end for Nick Ali, who used that grappling to his advantage. We saw in the last fight, John Gotti certainly no slouch on the ground. He showed some tremendous ground game against Marcos Lareda, but just a different story tonight, Joe.
For sure. I think Marcos Lareda was more hunting specific submissions, whereas tonight Nick Ali was more so just grappling a little bit and then landing good elbows. Like you can see here, he's landing some good elbows. He's landing, that was the very end of the 3rd round, but he was kind of beating him at kind of those in between stages. He wasn't trying to just grapple him. He was trying to fight him, but on the ground.
And that kind of performance by Ali and just the pressure that he puts on you when he's got you on the ground, it really just wears you down, right? Like, it doesn't look like a lot on camera, but how grinding is that? When you're on the bottom of that, mentally exhausting, physically exhausting, it all just seems to add up.
So it's hard because you want to try and get up. You want to have this not happen to you, but every time you try to do something, you get punished for it. It's like, oh, you try to get up a little bit, you get punched in the face. You try to get up a little bit, the guy drops all his weight on you. It's just like you're constantly losing life. You're constantly losing energy.
So Nick Ali's strong performance in the last 2 rounds. Again, though, as we mentioned, that middle round could be the swing round to see how it goes on the cards. We're going to get the scores in just a moment. But again, great showing by both fighters. Everything that we expected in this main event. It was that kind of back-and-forth grind, that back-and-forth battle where there were little moments here and there where the momentum shifted either direction. You saw Gotti have his moments, and Nick Ali, of course, had his moments as well. And could be in line here for a possible strong finish and upset victory for Nick Ali. We're going to see what the cards say, but definitely a great performance. And again, this is a guy who, by the way, came off almost 2-year layoff in Nick Ali to go out there and show what he did tonight. So we're going to get the official word. Now let's send it up to our cage announcer, Adam Plazio, who has the final scores.
After 3 tough rounds, we go to the scorecards. Judge Sean Flanagan and Paul Asmer have the fight 29-28. Judge Nick Mahmoud has the fight 29-27 for your winner by unanimous decision, Nick J.C. Ali.
There it is, 29-28 on 2 scorecards and 29-27 on the third. Nick Ali with the unanimous decision victory. So it looked like maybe a 10-8 round there, Joe.
Yeah, it's always weird. So it's supposed to be a 10-point must system, right? So someone should have had 30. Or it should have been, 3 10 rounds, and someone messed up.
And perhaps that third round maybe was the one where, and you don't necessarily, scoring the 10-8 round in MMA is a lot harder than boxing because you don't have the knockdowns to give you the automatic score. But in any event.
I didn't think any of those rounds were 10-8, though.
No, I would agree with you on that. The closest may have been the final round, but in any event, Nick Ali gets the big victory. Upset win over John Gotti, who's snapping his 5-fight win streak. And now Nick Ali's won 4 in a row. So perhaps, as we talked about, on the hot streak. We're going to send it up to Adam Plazio, who has our winner, Nick Ali.
Thanks, Mike. I'm here with our winner, Nick Ali. Nick, man, you fought the guy nobody wanted to fight, the guy that knocks everybody out. You took him the distance. You got the win. What's going through your mind right now?
Obviously, I'm just super happy. I had the best camp that I've ever had. Everything went off without a hitch. They had tried to set up this fight between John and I a couple times in the past. Either I was coming off injury or I had already had a fight. I knew at some point that we were both going to fight. I mean, I have 6 fights, 7 fights. Before today, I had 6 finishes, 5 submissions, 1 TKO. So I knew at some point, both of us being studs, we were going to fight just because we like to fucking fight. Sorry.
What was it about John Gotti, the matchup, that you liked going into this?
Because he's tough as nails. I mean, I don't know. I know Joe knows a ton about jiu-jitsu. Those triangles were nasty. I don't know how he lived through that. That was crazy. Because I could hear him in there go, ah, and I was just like, Jesus, this guy is like, you couldn't choke him out. That's why after that point, I didn't even bother. There was a couple submissions I felt I maybe could have jumped to, but I was like, there's no point being reckless. This is a close fight, so just hold position and continue to do damage.
Speaking of jumping, a win like this can certainly jumpstart your career, as our broadcast partners mentioned earlier. Right now, you got to be on cloud 9, but the future is bright.
Yeah, and that's the goal. I mean, I said I wanted to just keep rolling as quick as I could. I fought in February. I had a quick, minute and 30-second submission. I was trying to fight again on March, then COVID happened to everybody, and we kind of got backed up a little bit. But I'm feeling the best I ever have. I'm in the best shape that I've ever been in. I'm just ready to keep this ball rolling, you know what I mean? It's all the way up.
Well, congratulations, my man. Savor this victory. You deserve this one tonight. A hard-fought victory for Nick Ali. I'm going to send it up to the broadcast booth one more time to Mike Parenti and Joe Lozon.
All right, thank you, Adam. And, of course, congratulations to our winner, Nick Ali, in the main event. Big victory over John Gotti III. Gotti came into the fight 5-0. He had won 4 of those fights by first-round knockout, won a big unanimous decision in his last fight. Ali, clearly the underdog on paper, but tonight none of that really mattered. Ali came in and did what he did best and just controlled the ground game.
He did a great job. He was hunting submissions the entire fight. The second round was all him, third round was all him. He was hunting triangles, he was hunting arm locks. He was on the hunt the entire time, very intelligently attacked.
And a very interesting point that Nick Ali made in the interview with Adam, talking about how when he realized he wasn't going to get the triangle, he steered clear of trying to be reckless, right? And we talked about that throughout the night. It was really kind of a reoccurring theme of fighters showing the maturity in the cage to not just get overzealous and try to go for something that's not there and get yourself in a bad spot. Ali showed tremendous poise. And for someone who had 9 pro fights on his record, that's where that experience kicks in.
For sure. Sometimes you feel like you're pot committed. You feel like you've put in so much effort. You have to continue pursuing this. But guys that have been around long enough, they know, okay, you know what? I've chased this long enough. It's not happening. I'm going to go on to something else.
And it's tough. John Gotti comes in, a lot of hype, a lot of, a tremendous amount of clout, certainly coming into this bout, has the Gotti name, has the great amateur background, everything that he brings to the table here. Going forward, if you're John Gotti, what's the message to a fighter like that who suffers a tough luck loss like tonight?
I think it's like anyone else. A lot of other people that have lost tonight. You just get better. No one stays undefeated forever. You keep on learning from your mistakes. It didn't go his way tonight. Not a big deal. He had a couple moments that went great. He had a couple of mistakes he maybe made. He's going to work on those. He's going to get better. He's going to be better for it, for sure.
What a night of MMA. We're so glad to be back for the first time in 9 months. We had so many winners on tonight's card. A lot of guys that really stood out. Of course, Nick Ali would be the easy choice for fighter of the night for the performance. But beyond that, Joe, tell me, someone else who really stood out to you tonight on the undercard.
For me, Chris Matino. He got dropped really, really bad in the first round. Could have very well been the fight could have been over, but he came back and then he poured it on Ashik Kajim, who was great, did a great job too. But for me, Chris Matino was the next guy. I
agree with you 1,000% on that. Matino came into a fight where he really needed the victory and he got it. It looked like early on he might not get it, but you also got to give some credit to Fabio Charant tonight. Again, coming back from he's had some tough luck in his career. He's had fights that have been canceled at the last minute. He had a tough luck loss in the Contender Series, but has now won 2 in a row. And I thought it showed a lot of maturity and a lot of poise in the cage tonight. He had never really gone the distance. Had never been out of the second round coming into tonight. And so he was kind of pushed into those uncharted waters and really came through swimmingly in that kind of performance. And I always look for that on a card as a guy who can do something he has yet to do before. And sometimes we see it before our eyes, and we saw a lot of it tonight.
How about Jamel Jones?
Right.
Knockout of Tyler King. I would not be surprised at all to see that on SportsCenter tomorrow.
There are going to be a lot of guys who step forward tonight after this performance and take that next leap, so to speak, in the MMA world. A lot of guys on the rise, and a lot of guys are going to get right back in there soon. And now that we're in the new normal of the post-COVID MMA world, you're going to see a lot more action cage side. We're excited to bring it to you. I want to thank my broadcast partner, Joe Lozon, of course, for joining me as always. I want to thank the fans from UFC Fight Pass joining us. Best seat in the house, hopefully on the couch, or hopefully we're someplace that's warm. And, of course, we're going to be back real soon. We're going to have CES Boxing October 29th, right here live on UFC Fight Pass. We're going to kick it back upstairs. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you next time at the fights.
Thanks, guys.
Those iconic moments in history. So by the time it's done, after I fought everyone and beaten everyone, they can say, this is the